Hello, everyone. Welcome back for another week of Growing with My Fellow Growers. I'm your host, Jack Greenstock, joined as always by an amazing panel. I'm going to pass it over first this week to Noah the Grower.
How's it going, everybody? I'm Noah the Grower. Sorry I was a second late there, Jack, but happy to be here.
Actually, not your fault at all. I was actually running a little bit behind myself, so I got the link out just a few minutes before the show started. I'm happy to see that you showed up, and so did our next panelist, the American one. Cheers, Tal.
Hello, Jack, Noah, everyone in chat. I'm the American one on the YouTube and the American one underscore with underscore Keens on the IG. Glad I made it. Looking forward to it. And yeah, good to see everyone.
Looks like we have Spartan Grown just joining us via Zoom. And like I mentioned, that is more likely because I got the link out late than he would be late because he's very often here before the show starts. So it's more just my link getting out late. I made myself a little instant espresso to get me through the show. I've been coffee light today. That daylight savings time threw me off. Jumping forward, losing that hour in the morning takes away some time to prep myself some really good coffee. So I had a little coffee at my first client's house and then didn't have any the rest of the day. So I'm just making myself a little. And it looks like Spartan is all loaded in here. So I'm going to pass it over to him to introduce himself. Welcome in, Spartan.
Thank you, Jack. I am Spartan Grown. You can find me on Instagram at Spartan Grown, all one word, no spaces, or you could shoot me an email, spartangrown@gmail.com, or russ@gmlarmy.com for all of your growing and lighting questions. Sorry I'm late. Yeah, the daylight savings time got me, and I was watching the basketball game. Also distracted me, so I'm a little bit late. Sorry.
You're all good, man. A little March Madness action happening now. And I'm sure a lot of people are out there watching that and enjoying. So we're just happy that you made it. I'm happy that we made it. I was running a little bit behind, finishing up at work and getting back here. Like I said, just made myself a little bit of coffee. But getting onto the cannabis, we can talk a little bit about because we're going to have a guest that many of you are familiar with called Dog Doctor. And Dog Doctor is coming back. And I believe that he prefaced me by saying that he's been doing a little bit of this 12-12 from seed, which maybe leads us into a little bit of if we don't get tons and tons of questions I haven't written out, but if you want to tag us with questions and we'll answer your questions for the first hour, then we're going to open up the panel at hour two. And I believe Tao is going to have to leave us at hour two as well. But with that said, the topic that I'd like to maybe start us off talking about is 12-12 from seed, but not just as the general concept, but coming at it from, I believe that there was a research article that was recently posted discussing the overall benefits of 12-12 from seed in terms of yield per year, not per harvest. And the one account I was just watching a video, they were saying all they care about at the commercial level is yield per square meter per year. They don't care how many harvests or whatever it is, but I mean, they do, obviously, because that weighs into it. But there's a lot that goes into how many grams per square meter per year you get, whether you have six harvests or five or four or three, and whether it's a long flowering variety, et cetera, whether you veg for, 1 week, 2 weeks, 6 weeks, as I used to see suggested and still do sometimes. And it might be the right suggestion if you have a plant count and limited space and area and things like that. You can veg out giant monsters like the Scrog King. I don't know if you guys remember that guy from back in the day. He'd do like 4x4s and 5x5s, like single plant Scrogs, and just absolutely fill them out with one plant. Impressive stuff. So shout out to that guy. But I'm curious if you guys have any thoughts or comments, and if you've seen the similar stuff that I've seen over the last week or so, maybe month, talking about 12-12 from seed, potential benefits. I guess I should have pulled up the research article. I don't have it in front of me right now, but maybe somebody from the chat panel or someone, I might even find it in the next couple minutes here, but I'll pass it to Spartan first because I can see your face. And for engagement, I think it keeps people hanging around when they see the actual faces on the screen talking for a little bit. A lot of people, at least on X, they drop off in the first 30 minutes, but the podcast people are here all 2 hours. YouTube's kind of in between. So, Spartan, what do you think about that whole shabagle?
I like um I like 1212 as a tool. And I'm not even pretending that this was my idea. This is definitely something that was passed to me. But for all of the long flowering strains, the hazes and the things that go past 8 weeks, past 9 weeks, um, a lot of times for indoor grows, for to be able to flower strain out like that, you're much better off starting those things right in the flower room or right under the flowering schedule because they're a longer flowering strain, the stretch period in flower is longer. Typically, most strains nowadays are 8, 9 weekers, and they're stretching until about day 21, day 22, and then they're done stretching. But when well, at least what I've noticed is with some longer flowering strains, that stretch period kind of is also elongated, so it can grow and stretch for longer. So starting them off at the smallest possible, right from seed in that 12-12, gets them flowering as soon as they possibly can, and kind of eliminates all the plant training you're going to have to do to account for that added stretch. So I know that it's always been used for a tool. It's not like a new concept as far as that's concerned. And then also pheno hunting, it's a real nice way to keep your plants small and compact. And if you're like doing like a flood and drain or a bottom feeding situation, you can have a bunch of small pots and it's not too hard to water them. You can just flood the whole tray, and to do that from right from pop is a good way to get a good idea on the pheno hunt. Even though I don't really, I've heard that as a concept for doing that, but I don't like that for pheno hunting because I believe if you're pheno hunting, you should if you're gonna do it that way, you should pheno hunt from the second flower because I don't feel like if you pop your seed in the 12-12 environment that it has a chance to all the way mature before it does that flip. And you might have a different expression the second go from that clone. But if you were to veg it so you saw some maturity and then flipped it, you might be able to make that pheno selection on the first go. So it's that big age-old debate, what's faster? Vegging it for a little longer, get it mature and then flipping it to make that choice, or not vegging it at all and just growing it twice. And that's pretty much my thoughts on it.
I do think that there's a different expression with the no veg or very short veg versus a traditional, whatever your typ typical veg would be. And so I agree with that. If you're gonna try and pheno select that, a no veg or 12-12 from seed is going to be a different expression than 1 or even 2 weeks veg. I'd typically do from seed in the vegetative light cycle anywhere from 25 to 35 days, 40 on a very long cycle, if I'm going straight from seed to flower as fast as possible. And so if I were to immediately go 12-12 from seed, there'd obviously, in my opinion, be a fairly large difference because we can't change variables, let alone more than one variable at a time, and expect the same result. So if we're changing the light cycle from the first, 25 days on a minimum for my uh, sort of setup, then I'd imagine, a whole month of a different light cycle is going to dramatically, like you were talking about, change the morphology of the plant in terms of how much you have to train it. Typically going to see a little bit, I would imagine, um, aside from those long flowering sativas that stretch incredibly, you're gonna have smaller plants, right? So you're gonna have less branches to deal with. You're gonna have less stalk to deal with, and you're gonna have less leaf to deal with. So you're gonna have just hopefully more and smaller plants, not just smaller plants, because if you're just having smaller plants all the time and you have a plant count of 6 or 10 or something, then maybe the 12-12 from seed is bunk for you because you'd rather veg it a little bit longer and maximize your space, your plant count, and things like that. So there's more that goes into it. And even Googling, I'm not really finding that article. Like I've seen Zamnesia stuff. Okay, moving away from 12-12. It might be part of a different thing that I looked at. And I think we already covered this article, actually, if I'm being honest, talking about different, like 13 on, 11 off, and 10 on, 14 off, etc., decreasing and increasing the photo periods and things like that. But in a general point, I'm curious because I know Noah's talked about this in the past too, like baby plants or small plants, maybe even being like danker or sweeter or tastier with the shorter veg. So I'm curious, Noah, do you have any thoughts on the 12-12 from seed versus a short veg period or a regular full veg cycle, whatever that might be for you?
Well, I would never do 12-12 in flower myself personally. I'd be way more close to what you're talking about. If I was going from seed, which I typically don't, but I have, I would be way closer to the 25 to 40 range, whatever was comfortable with my schedule. Nothing when it comes to growing, as anybody who's been growing for a while would know, is going to be rigid. Sometimes you're going to have variables, weather, plants, your schedule. You got to work around stuff, but I would never do it that way myself personally. I do think there's something to vegging for a shorter amount of time. But the shorter amount of time that I would be talking about would be way closer to that 25 to 40 day range than anything, you know, 12-12 seed in a flower room. Like I've never done that. And I don't think that would be for me. I have, I have a ton of friends that are just, that's all they do is pheno hunt through a bunch of stuff. They like literally just pop seeds all day. they do exactly basically what I've heard Brandon Rush talk about. They just stuff them all into a tent. They flower them all the way in a 1 or possibly a 2, and they're just just saying, hey, let's just take a look at this. Let's see what happens if I stress this out. But yeah, no, for me, 12-12 from flower wouldn't be in it. But I do think there's something to having smaller plants versus trees that are 6 or 5 feet in your house or outside. Myself personally, but I do know guys who have grown trees that are good. So it's somewhere in the middle.
I'm going to say something that's probably going to offend some people in the audience, but yeah, I've had some blue dream off of a 10-pound plant that was fantastic. So I'm of the opinion personally, a large yielder doesn't mean bad quality. But oftentimes, sometimes small yielders are great quality. It doesn't mean that they're mutually exclusive. And I think like whether it's an apple or a cannabis plant, if you have a huge yielder, sometimes like the heaviest apple, even just like within the same, I just tried a new one called a lemonade apple, at least new to me, I should say. And I went through picking all of them to find a non-bruised one and one that looked right and, et cetera. But I usually with apples look for heavier ones because the heavier it is, it usually something went well, It grew big, large, heavy, dense. It's gonna be a little bit crisper, tastier, fruitier. Where if you've got a very light one, it might be a little bit watery and not have gotten just like a cannabis plant that didn't fully develop or didn't have a good flower cycle. It's not going to have as many terpenes, as many cannabinoids, etc. So I think it's interesting to see because, like Noah said, there are guys that have grown trees that grow fire, but I'd say the majority of it, most of those guys, if they're honest, up in like the Emerald Triangle area, will tell you on those big outdoor trees, they're cutting out like 20% to mold, mildew, losses, spider mite pests, other pests, thrips, etc. It's rare that they have like 95+% of that harvest come down and be kept. If they're trying to run it for flower, like most of us would in an indoor, or many of us would in an indoor, even if you're trying to keep it for concentrate or something like that, keeping it to the quality standard that you would want to actually wash and keep around. So, big trees don't necessarily mean bad, but I'd say a lot of the time it makes a lot more difficulties with management in plant management, yield management, or not yield management, but the harvest management, making sure that you're not having things. I've seen people that their entire houses get filled up by their plants because they set out their 12 plant Michigan outdoor grow and they grew 12 fucking giant trees and they had nowhere to dry it. So they've had it for like years, just like the background of their house is just like giant fucking plants and they like pick off a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there. And it works out, but there's definitely considerations when you have to grow a massive plant that don't need to be taken when you're growing a much, much smaller plant. I'm curious if Tao, I know you're very well connected in the community and you see a lot of the stuff early. So I'm curious, did you see any of the research or the data that was being kind of pushed around about the 12-12 from seed, maybe increasing yield on the yearly? And do you have any thoughts generally about 12-12 from seed versus whatever your normal veg cycle it would be from seed?
Yeah, I knew this guy on Instagram that's all he had was one room and he could only do 12 and 12. So I saw a lot of his plants go through, and yeah, you get little guys, you get little ones that kind of look like an auto flower that didn't do good, and then you have some that are killer. But a lot of the strains, genetics come from the equator that only get 12 and 12 hours their entire life. So depending on the strain, make a world of difference. And I remember reading in High Times, some dude had a sativa that he was growing. He only gave it 9 hours of light. And the more I think about it, that's like genius because it'll help make it mature quicker, it'll use less electricity, and you get a sativa. I'm thinking, like now that you made me think about that story, I want to go pull out my haze seeds and put them under like 8 and 8, I mean 8 hours of light, and see if they can mature up. But yeah, I think it's totally strain dependent. I had the one I called it the spider plant because it looked like it took over the whole entire 4x4 in like a heartbeat, but it was mostly stem. But I had cuts of it, and as soon as the cut showed roots, I put it in flowering, and it definitely helped. It only came up to like 5 foot, and it was a lot more buds on it. So yeah, definitely with certain strains, you almost have to if you want to have them be a decent size. But nobody's growing
Landrace,
that shit.
especially.
I mean, yeah, nobody's
Very few
growing that
people.
shit. I don't even think they have the seeds. The one I got seeds from my buddy went to Ghana in Africa and got like seeds. I put them in the room in a week, dude. They were above the light. It was absolutely insane how big those plants grew in like
Landrace
no
don't fuck
time at
around.
all, dude. No time at all. I mean, it was just absolutely insane. And but yeah, I don't even know if you get those seeds anymore. But Yeah, it has a lot to do with strain dependent for sure. But you can find one, I bet. I bet you can find a commercial one that would kick ass on the 12 and 12, no veg, and still make 6 foot plants that would do killer that weren't
That's what Frank
autos.
Frank Gigax was doing that back in he was that guy with the giant underground bunker grow in California. And he just took all of his cuts and was flipping them from 12 to 12. They didn't veg them at all. So it worked for him. But the granted, unregulated market days, customer slash clientele demands are less picky, I'll say, than a home grower who's doing it for their own head stash. But that being said,
Yeah, from seed is different too. I knew a dude that did it from clones, and he would put like 100 clones in like a 3 foot by 3 foot spot, and it would just be like baseball bat buds. You know that
that's
they were
kind of how
that tight.
Uncle Reefer grows a lot like that, where it's just
Yeah,
like single colas packed in super dense, and you get just giant, big, healthy, mini little baseball bats or even little baby arm type buds all the way up and down the grow. So nothing wrong with that. I think it's really interesting. And one thing you mentioned that I wanted to touch on because it was in that article that I didn't share, but I pulled up just looking at the different light cycles, and they were talking about 10 on, 14 off. And whenever I've had a grower reach out and say, "Hey Jack, my haze or whatever is not finishing. Like it's got a bunch of white pistils still popping in week 8, 9, 10, 11, whatever." I'll ask, "Okay, what's your light cycle?" And they'll say it's 12, 12, or even 11, 13. I'll be like, "All right, well, we'll drop it down to 10 on, 14 off, or from 12, 12 to 11, 13, and let that go for 4, 5, 6, 7 days, one more week." And almost always within like 3, 4 days, they're like, "Oh my God, as soon as I changed the light cycle, I started seeing orange hairs and it finished up and, developed." So I do think it is pertinent for those longer flowering varieties to have more dark period. And I think that, like you were saying, and I've also heard DJ Short say, not to, poke fun at you or give you shit, but incorrectly that it's always 12, 12 in Hawaii or always 12, 12 at the equator. And it's like, it's close to 12, 12, right? It's not always exactly that, right? It could be like plus or minus 15 minutes and things like that. I think Hawaii does like a whole hour swing depending on the time of the year, but it not every single plant is from those places, and our grow rooms, as much as we might try, aren't going to emulate the same sort of DLIs and light movements and even spectrums that the sun will. So I think different reactions coming from the plants, indoor and outdoor. But it is fun to try and emulate and kind of borrow lessons from nature. It's like I'm not trying to make my grow room exactly like nature. However, I can see, oh well, some plants get less time gradually as things go on. So why don't I replicate at least that little part of nature in my horticulture where I'm trying to maximize and get the best quality and quantity, et cetera. And that's kind of what we're talking about tonight is ultimately we're talking about quantity. Obviously, we all want quality. We want the best possible stuff that we can get. However, um, in the side by side stuff that I was seeing presented, it was like in 12-12 from seed, we were getting 370 grams per plant. When we were doing 2 week veg or 3 week veg, we were getting 440 grams per plant. But then they like dosed it out to like, okay, but if we don't do the extra 2 weeks per veg, that room or that table or whatever it is, that 380 grams per harvest is 6 or 7 harvests versus the 5 harvests, where the other one is doing the 2 weeks from veg or whatever. And so they looked at the overall yield, which I think is an important metric to consider, but it doesn't always apply necessarily directly to the home space unless you're very direct in how you're measuring things and conscientious of
Well, a lot of
all your
veg
inputs.
spaces at home too are dedicated. So that's another thing to consider. If you have a dedicated veg space now, if you were to eliminate veg and that was now a flower space, what would that gain you in extra flower? I mean, if you're really looking at yield, you're going to lose yield as far as the yield in your flower room because you got smaller plants, but now your veg room is also a flower room. So,
That's exactly what they're saying.
yeah.
yeah. Well, so they're not going to use clones.
Well, they'll just buy them. They'll buy them from a
Okay.
clone, whatever, or they'll buy seeds and just pop them from seed or whatever. That I think if you're at a commercial scale is a little bit more risky because if you're pheno hunting, if you're doing it from clone, yeah, no duh, right? Like it's a pretty obvious proposition. But I think even the studies and some of these commercial operations are considering it from seed. So either they're getting some stable seeds or they don't care as much about the consistency of the end product. I would just be more worried about like from a plant management perspective when I've done similar stuff just in my own grows, popping a whole bunch of different seeds, even if I don't go 12 for 12 from seed. And I get an idea of how large the plant is. I train it up a little bit. I tie it down and I restrain it a little bit. some of them will still just blast right through the rest. It's like I'm gonna triple, quadruple in height, where the other one doubles in height, or it might be 1.5 times height, like a Mac 1 or a Granddaddy Purple or something like that. That is basically the same size. You veg it is what it's gonna be in flower, plus a little bit. But then there's the Blue Dreams and the Hazes and other kind of more stretchy plants out there that will humble you real quick when you're trying to pop them alongside a squat, broadleaf short variety. And I think that we've kind of all at one point or another in pursuit of, like Breeder Steve, Spice of Life is, variety is a spice of life. So we're all trying to have as many different varieties in our garden as possible sometimes. And we might pop a little bit too many different varieties and put them all in the same area and end up having one really tall and one really short and trying to figure out how to set up our lights so that we're not too close with one and too far with another. And those do come into consideration when you're popping stuff 12 from seed because you really don't have any other than the breeder information, which sometimes is not the most accurate. I might say it's going to be done in 60 days, but if you're popping at 12 from seed, maybe it's 100 days, right? Maybe it still veges for 30 or 40 days because it's just not super happy in that environment. And it's going to take a little bit of time to establish its roots first, and then it's going to veg a little bit, and then it's going to flower when it feels like it's ready to, based on its hormones and its, structural integrity that it's been able to build for itself. I haven't been looking at chat. Has anybody seen any questions coming in? And do you guys have any other general thoughts or commentary on how something like this might play into average gardeners' home growth?
I think that if you're in a home grow state where they have canopy restrictions, it's wonderful to think about. If you are in a home grow state where a plant count is a restriction, um, the time limit's going to restrict your plant size and your overall yield, and it might hurt you there. But if you don't worry about plant count, then you can grow a bunch of smaller plants. It's a viable option, I think.
I don't know. I like having a veg area so I can have clones and have the same plant that I want if I like something.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
other
but,
thing we
but
didn't
think
even talk
about
about.
this. Think
If it's
about
killer and
this,
you didn't take a
Kyle.
cut,
Even if I told you that your current veg space I was going to make into your flower room, tell me you're not going to just find a veg space
Yeah,
somewhere in
well,
or
there.
re-veg the good ones, if you
that's
feel like it's
true,
going to be
right?
good, like 2 weeks into flower, you're like, oh man, that one's really been killing it through, even though it's 12 and through, it's been I'm never kind of runty and not super. So I'm going to take a cut of that one that's got a little extra to take a cut of off the bottom because it's just been absolutely, vegging like a monster, where other ones might be not so thrilled about it. I will say it's kind of an interesting proposition because, as Spartan mentioned and alluded to earlier, do you even consider that whether it's like what Noah mentioned, the 1 or 2 gallon, or Brandon does, those like pheno hunts, are those even like true to that genetic? Are we getting the best expression? Should we stress it? Should we put it in a quite under ideal environment while still, like in Brandon's case, providing all the necessary nutrients? It's gonna be a little bit smaller plant, really healthy plant, and you'll just fine. But it's not gonna be what it would be if you put it into a 3 gallon or a 5 gallon or a bed where it has almost unlimited root access and it's going to express its size than when it's technically being restricted in the pheno hunt by keeping it in a smaller pot. Because most of us, unless you are doing like a sea of green style, are finishing in what I'd consider to be larger than a 1 gallon. Even if you're in like cocoa, some people go larger than that. Although I'd say you can get very effective plants in cocoa in 1 gallons. I'd say it's more of like a little taste tester if you're growing in soil. When I tried everything from 1 gallon, 2 gallon, 3 gallon, 5 gallon. I like three is the happy medium for my small tent, but I could see why people in larger tents would want. And now that I'm in a larger tent, might even would have considered 5 gallons before I got into the earth boxes and stuff like that. But Spartan, what do you think? I know you kind of gave thoughts on it earlier that the 12-12 from seed, or even like the Noah's reference, keeping it in a smaller pot, or like Brandon doing the 1 gallons, can that give you enough of a expression of that plant that you're interested in a second run? Or is it like, yeah, that was good, but maybe I have to disregard it because I want to veg it full size first and see if it still sticks with that same nose or that same medical effect or something?
Yeah, that answers the person who's actually doing the actual search because they know what exactly they're looking for. I would say in my limited breeding experience, I would say that a one go like that would be something like I'm looking for dominant traits, something that's going to breed true uh when I'm doing that because with a go like that, I don't think you're given it enough chance to express recessive traits. If it's not even getting to maturity for you to pick out those nuances. So I would say that it's like a real fast once over. I don't think that's worthless information by any means, but it's like, what are your goals? Are you just pheno hunting this strain? Then that might be all you need. You know what I mean? Just to figure out, okay, this one was the best plant structure that I'm looking for, or I'm looking for the best, this certain flavor, the grapiest one, or the strawberryest one, or whatever the hell it is, the gassiest one. Um, that might be okay to just to make that determination, be like, all right, I can kill all the other clones. That's the clone I'm running from now on, for sure. But if you're going to breed past that, and you're trying to get a full idea of what that plant's bringing to the breeding, I'm going to say for me myself as a breeder, I'm going to need a second run. I'm going to need a second run. I can't speak for everyone out there, but for me, I want a second run to see exactly what they do again. But that's just my opinion on it. I guess I'm not claiming to be the
I think
expert.
that's a fair opinion. I mean, it gives you more data, and the more data you have, the more accuracy and reliability I think that you can expect, even in a biological specimen like cannabis that changes maybe from summer to winter. Like I've talked about with the J1 in the past, it might be more woody in the summer, it might be more sweet,
Mhm.
piney in winter in the one guy's case. But maybe you can eventually learn that. You know that from the one run and then the second run. It's like, oh, my winter run was this way, my summer run was that way, or my little run was sweeter and my bigger run it became more gassy or something like that. Had more
Yeah,
fuel
or
dominated.
you might learn things in the first run that you can address to unlock things in the second run, right? The very first run, you might like, oh, these ones don't like a lot of light, or oh, these ones like a lot of light, or these ones don't like a lot of food. These ones like a lot of food, or when they hit stretch, they get so hungry, but after that, don't give them any more. So many little stupid nuanced things that
Too
if you
heady,
hit
too sedative. Like, oh, I
yeah,
took it too
if you
long.
hit those things when the plant needs it, it's gonna fucking shine, and it might be I'm not saying a whole different plant, but something you might want to keep rather than not keep. At least that kind of a difference.
That's a great point. And I think that it's worth experimenting, doing multiple runs, especially if it's something you're interested in. If you liked it, then you're probably naturally going to want to run it again, right? So just to see, even if you could replicate, if it was like a 8+ out of 10 or better, something decent to good, or like a 9 or even close to a 10 out of 10, you're like, oh shit, can I do that again or get close to it? And maybe can I do better is another great question to ask yourself. And I guess that's where I'm a little because it's really hard to replicate 12-12 from seed. That's like a one and done every time. Like in my experience, when you take that same clone that you, even with a really, really short veg, versus the second run where the plant's been around longer, it's more mature, its hormones are more underneath it, so to speak. I think that might produce a different terpene profile a lot of the time. So like when he first grew it from seed. It was probably really fire. I mean, he's talked to us on the show about when he found it, and it was killer then. But I'm interested if like maybe there was some subtle changes that between when he first grew it to like the second generation or whatever. Like he obviously kept it, so it was fire enough to stick around. But I'm wondering if like maybe it was more chemi, or like one of them had like the very first one maybe was like really heavy chocolatey, and that's why he like put such an emphasis on it, and that allowed him to see the chocolate. And then a lot of people later are like I don't really get chocolate. And it's like, well, because you didn't grow it from seed the original time or something like that. Or your soils and your expressions are different because you grew it outdoor or in a greenhouse or in different media than he grew it under a different lighting system than he grew it under. Even the fact that he was in Las Vegas, that's a harsh environment in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere. Otherwise, like outside the casinos and entertainment industries over there. Lots of cool people. Shout out to like Johnny Candaceed and Ty Sticks and everybody else out there. But it's different than Florida. It's different than California. California right now we're getting some Santa Ana winds. It's like 80 plus. We got record highs today, and really high winds though. Like shit's blowing around. Like tree branches are getting knocked off trees, and shit's like getting blown into the streets. So lots of different considerations and things that will actually, I think, prominently make differences in the expression of the plants. And that's why you'll see like Hawaiian cannabis, for example. Like a lot of the Hawaiian strains have never got really popular outside of Hawaii. I think it's because they expressed really great in Hawaii, the Hawaii Electric or a lot of the other ones. And maybe they're super tightly held and people didn't want to let them out. And that's very likely as well. But it's interesting to me when certain regional things, a lot of Humboldt stuff was that way too, um, tightly held and also maybe just expressed best in that region because that's also a pretty intense region. Like Humboldt gets really long, hot, sunny days during certain parts of the season. They have longer, sunnier days than Southern California, despite us having more consistent warm weather. They have a lot colder nights. That's a huge difference in expression. There's guys that grow in LA and San Diego, same cuts, you could get from XYZ nursery or whatever. And the guys up in Mendo that are growing them and Humboldt that are growing them are getting big, beautiful purple plants. And then the guys down in San Diego have green and like yellow plants. So it's quite the difference there. And then I think I just saw a question roll in. I saw it in the chat live, and I think Spartan might have copied it over because it was tagged at him. So I'm gonna go ahead and extend my little thing so I can read. It says, this is from Kate Armstrong. Shout out to you, longtime listener. Cheap Home Grow and Spartan Grow. I'm scrolling. Sorry, I need to make this a little bit bigger so I can actually read it. All right. Something about metal raised beds. I still got to
Yeah, I
go a
can
little
read
bit.
it. It says, my dad has two 8 by 3 by 2. So 8 foot long by 3 foot wide by 2 foot deep metal raised bed. He wants to fill with soil. How would you go about filling them? Hugelkultur style, like sticks on the bottom, then leaves, etc. Question mark.
I would definitely take advantage of some of the Breeder Steve approach if you've got some stalks lying around. Use those old cannabis stalks as like a hugelkultur base. If you have sticks, if you have like woods that you can go around in your backyard and just self-collect some old fallen logs that don't look too nasty or you know I'm a little worried sometimes with like people are all big fans of IMO or indigenous microorganisms, but some of those really like moldy, if it's got some crazy shit growing on and it smells bad, I'd be hesitant to grab that log. But in general, sticks, logs, twigs, leaves, um, things like that are available and often free or very affordable as a base filler. Even though it's not the best stuff, some of the big box store like the cheaper soils as like a base, and then you can sort of amend it and zhuzh it up a little bit because there's like, forest product and pumice and this and that. There's some stuff in there that you want, and then there's a bunch of junk in there. But if you're just looking for a cheap filler and they've got a decent deal and you're just using it for raised bed stuff, you can get away with like less than ultimately super ideal soil. So it really comes down to the budget, um, what you're going to be growing in there ultimately. Like, are you growing
What
food?
you have on,
Are you
yeah, what you have
growing
on the hand.
roses?
That's really huge to know is what do you have on hand and how much labor are you willing to do? Because it'll be kind of hugelkultur, but not really because you're not going to be able to mound it because you have a raised bed. So, I mean, if the raised bed isn't built yet and you just are going to, the spot's like grass, I would, measure out that spot that you gave us those dimensions of and at least remove the grass and go throw that into your compost pile that you hopefully have somewhere. Or if you don't, you're starting it. And then, uh, and then if you want to dig down as much as you feel like you can dig down, uh, throw a tarp down and as you're digging down, you save that dirt on top of that tarp. And then if you have any kind of old fallen lumber or and so it'll go like kind of the hugelkultur way is the biggest pieces in there first, followed by the smallest pieces on top of that, and the smaller stuff to pack in around that. And then when you're running out of all your organic material, you want to have some greens in there. Something green on the top to help break down all that browns that we just threw in there. So uh, evergreen is one thing a lot of people will grab. That one's usually around all the time, but grass clippings, stuff like that, or just plant, cleanup. And then that soil that you got on the tarp, you throw over the top of it to fill your bed. Throw your bed on there and fill it all up to the top. The only thing that I would really do though is get some good quality compost if you don't have some already, in a compost pile. Get you some compost and put it on the top because that first couple years you're probably not going to get really high quality growth out of there if you don't amend the soil with some kind of nutrition. That that dirt that you just dug up right there is probably not super nutritious, and it's going to take a little while for all that carbon material to break down, all that wood and stuff. But essentially, what's great about that wood is it acts like a battery for water. That's the important thing that a lot of people don't think about. Yeah, it breaks down eventually, and the fungal it attracts the fungal network and all that. But what's really great about it is acts like for it takes years and years to really break down, and in the meantime, it acts like just a sponge for water, so the root systems of your plants can get down there and access water. And that's what's the real magic, I think, about that kind of a layering system or a hugel mound or bed. And I've done that myself. I've just filled it in instead of using the dirt that's there. I used stuff off my compost pile, so it was just good to go right from the get because it was I don't know 4 inches thick of compost at the beginning, and then I always love the leaves at the end of in the fall. I let the leaves fall right down there and stay there, and then I'll even go collect leaves and put more on top. Just adding that organic material for your mulch. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head in your question. You answered it yourself.
The other thing I was going to say, because you mentioned the green material, and I've been following this account recently. They moved from like Alaska, I think, down to Amarillo, Texas. And it's this lady, and she's growing like her own garden. And she basically just had like two rakes, a laundry basket, and a knife. And she's like, I'm just showing that you can grow with basically anything. You don't need to have like a rich husband and a whole bunch of other resources to, be an influencer or whatever. Like you can go out there and just grow your own food. And she's like been watering this dirt in her backyard and slowly like adding compost scraps and stuff to it. And it's been interesting to see her developments and stuff. But somebody gave a great recommendation that I'll recommend to this person as well, Kate Armstrong, which is to get clover, get like a mix of clover, grow your own clover. You can literally just scatter it around as long as it's not like, I'm pretty sure it's not banned in any states, but it is very like, it's one of those things that spreads incredibly fast and it can be, I don't know if it's invasive considered in certain areas, but it grows really fast. It grows really easy. And you can just spread a bunch of the seed. It'll pop up and then you can whack it down, take that as your green material and add that to the hugelkultur bed. And it's also a nitrogen fixer. It is, something that you can use even within your cannabis or other beds as a cover crop, and things like that you can rotate throughout time. And it's fairly resilient. It grows a lot of places really well. Doesn't need tons and tons of water or resources. And like I said, nitrogen fixing, it takes it from the air. It's not like gonna deplete your soil of stuff that your plants later will then need. It will actually enrich your soil or your compost because it is able to be broken down. So pretty actually just saw a really cool it was tomato harvesting, but they are doing those like long tomato vines where they're, stretched all around the entire freaking greenhouse or whatever, where you got like a 50-foot long vine with tons of, there's like a rock wool cube with like a million tomatoes growing out of it. But at the end of their crop, instead of just throwing the stuff away, they have these giant conveyor belts with cloth on top of it so that it doesn't even beat up or like damage the stems. And they were collecting all the stem and then they were just grinding it up into a powder and they're using that powder to like make biofuels and all sorts of other, nutrients for soils and things like that. So it's really cool to see what we can do when we're being resourceful. And that whole Breeder Steve conversation, I had another buddy, shout out, I always reference him, but my homie Overhaul Genetics, formerly October Grower in Canada, he messaged me after listening to the Breeder Steve episode saying that he's going to uh, try using some of his cannabis stems as the soil. And he was wondering if it was pre-composted or if he just went straight in with raw stems. And based on what I heard and remember from the conversation, it sounded like Steve was saying you could basically go straight in. It doesn't have to necessarily be pre and he used a very high volume and still had success with it. So I think it just goes to show there's tons and tons of ways of doing it. I can't remember whose page it was, but I remember visually seeing this was pre-AI, somebody planting into, they had hay bales and they would just plant like maybe like a 1 gallon pot or like a solo cup into their hay bale and the plant would just fucking rip. Like it grew well. And I'm like, I don't know if I ever saw a fully harvested plant, but it definitely started off ripping. And I think they did inevitably see, and I don't know if it gets all the way through the hay down into the soil or something, or what the process is, like how that's working. But it is interesting to see like cannabis can do really well in a number of really shitty situations, like the sandiest of sandy soils. Like you can see plants in Thailand and India in areas where the Bahamas and things like that, where you got some ultra sandy soils, coastal areas, and it still thrives. It might not yield as much as a place where you've got well draining soil that's ultra nutrient dense, but it does well there, and it also will survive in Siberia and become an autoflower and pretty much anywhere. Like there other than maybe Antarctica, and even there, they've got researchers, I'm sure, growing it at some point. And so fascinating stuff. But I'm looking forward to
Yo, I never did a raised bed
going.
or a Google bed, but wouldn't it be a good idea to throw some worms in there too? Or you think
I
they
think
would be
so, for sure. I think
yeah.
That
they'll
would be a
find the
bad
spots that they're
idea.
happy. If it was like a general pop, pardon, I didn't hear you.
I just said it would be a bad idea to add worms, but I wouldn't like go out of my way to add them because they're going to naturally show up when they're ready. If it's starting to compass and gets a little bit too warm, they're gonna run away anyway. So it has to be like at that point where they like to hang out for them to stay anyway. Um, but I think towards the top probably they'd be ready. But I wouldn't add them like
I was gonna
lower
say
into the.
in the bed, they'll find their like if you just like you said, plop them on top, they're gonna go where they're happy, and that's gonna change. I would imagine with a Hugel bed, there's so much going on. They're gonna be happy some days. If it's a heavy rain, they might go down or come up or whatever, and they're gonna work into those pockets, kind of like roots, looking for nutrients and stuff, kind of wiggling around the soil, trying to figure out the most ideal situation for themselves. I've always been on your kind of concepts part where I'm not gonna front load. Like even I've seen people in indoor tents with tons and tons pots. And I've seen them have good results, admittedly. Like shout out Cheddar Bob and Blue of Green Tank. They'll do like the avocado tech, and they're usually in soil beds or in earth boxes, admittedly. So like full ass beds, like lots of huge soil masses. And even then, they're making these little worm homes, right? They have an avocado that they've cut in half, emptied out, and then blended up a whole bunch of nutrients for those worms to go procreate and be happy up at the top of that soil. And maybe they'll be happy in certain parts of the mulch layer. Maybe they'll be happy in certain parts of that bed, but they're not stoked everywhere. I can tell you that, especially if the plant is happy, it's going to be too wet for them. Like even Tao's mentioned in the past with his worm bin. I think a lot of people now they either come pre-drilled or they have like a screen or something on the bottom that makes it so they're not sitting in their like leachate or whatever it's called, like the drippings. You don't want it to be soggy. Otherwise, things are going to end up kind of getting nasty, maybe anaerobic, and just not optimal for the worms. And thus, plants need lots of water, so we're going to be watering a bunch. And so the worms aren't going to be like worm bin status of procreation and happy and healthy like they would be if you just, in this case, in Kate's case, or whoever has a 8+ foot raised bed or hugelkultur should probably consider. Also, you can do it as simple as literally a giant fabric pot. Just throw worms in there, recycle like your old newspaper and like blend up because I guess almost all of the ink now is soy based or something like that, and it's not going to be the worst thing in the world. So even if you just blend up your junk mail and throw that in there and like cardboard, people put cardboard scraps down on their grass to start because they might be worried what's underneath their soil, and they'll literally build up on top of that. So let's take a bunch of old Amazon boxes or whatever it is, a refrigerator box, and just collapse it down, throw a shit ton of sticks on top of that, and then start burying it with compost that maybe they got, did a little bit too. But there's a million ways to go after stuff like this, and I'm glad that people are out there setting it up and setting it up for their families. It sounds like this was maybe for a mom or dad or a family member, if I'm remembering correctly, or if I read it correctly. But it's even if it's for them, shout out to anybody who's getting more into gardening, whether cannabis or otherwise. That woman who moved from Texas or Alaska down to Texas was saying she can't believe how friendly most of the gardening community is. There's obviously, like any community, assholes, and like she's highlighted some negative comments. However, there's also people like buying her a new rake because her one got stolen from her front yard, and now she's got a metal rake instead of a plastic one or whatever. And so it's like a whole saga. I'm all in, but I'm sure you guys can find it. It went super viral like last week or some shit. But I'm just all for it. Like it just like this show, the Chief Home Grow, it goes to show you don't need everything to start. You don't need to have the perfect equipment, the best equipment, the newest equipment, the shiniest equipment, the fucking brand name shovel or water. I got sucked in, just like I do with every hobby, for the most part, to upgrade itis, where I think I'm going to buy my way into more skill or more quality, when ultimately knowledge, not to sound like Ty Lopez, but is so powerful. Like if you are, I'll take the pro in any hobby versus the noob, even if the pro has the shittier gear, because they're going to figure it out. They know all the ins and outs. They're going to find the way to make that shitty gear work for them. With like cannabis, I would give the exception of like, I'll take a new grower with Chem Dog over the most experienced grower with like a shitty low rider or ruderalis. But generally, if we're talking like more even scales than that, it helps to have experience, and we're not going to buy our way to something that's going to make our gardening so much better. Like I bought some high flow, low pressure watering can. And I was all excited for it because I saw all these reviews for it and people on certain websites hyped it up. And I was like, man, this thing's going to change my game. I'm going to water so much quicker. My plants are going to be so much happier. I got it. And it's like, I don't even use it anymore. Like it was actually a little bit annoying and it kind of leaked a little bit and didn't work kind of as advertised and ended up causing more of a headache than it was worth. And so there's times where it's like, oh man, this hot new product or this thing or this influencer I follow is using that thing. I think even up to like even on the cheaper end, like these grow monitoring sensor technologies, they're convenient. It's nice to have. I have one now. Do I check it all the time? To be honest, no. Like unless I get some sort of alert, I'm in the garden once or twice a day, so I'm going to see the environment myself with my own eyes, and I'm going to change it by opening up that flap or whatever. But if I had just sat back and relied 100% on that, then my plants are going to suffer for other reasons because I'm not getting in there, I'm not training, I'm not watering as often as I should, or noticing if there's a pest or something popping up, or nutrient deficiencies like that pop quiz we did the other week popping up. I think that was a fun one. In all of these episodes, I can't believe it took me 350 something shows to come up with the idea to actually start showing some nutrient deficiencies and start going through them in terms of a how to grow cannabis podcast. You think that would be a little bit more, I guess maybe it felt elementary, or I avoided it because it felt like when I first got into growing, that was one of the first things you do. It's like I need to get a resource, whether it's Jorge Cervantes Grow Bible or Grow Eat Easy, something that shows me how I'm fucking up my plant and how to fix it.
We need to reach out to Matthew and have him come on and do one with pests, like a leaf that's been attacked by a pest, and then guess the pest. That would be a cool one, or
That
at
would be
least maybe
great.
maybe see their eggs
I would
and
love
get an
that.
idea of it, or something like
Yeah, that'd be a very good one. It's sad, unfortunately,
that.
our viewership often does this whenever we talk about any IPMs, but it's not all about the viewership. I think education is more important than just how many people we can get, but you got to have some ears out there actually listening to have the education take place. So we got to figure out a way to make it more interesting and educate. I think that'd be a fun way, visual. I'm a visual person myself, even though this is a podcast, having visual stimuli. Like I was talking about, I used to be a faceless name. I was just at Jack Greenstock for the longest time, and before I even had this visual background thing, it wouldn't even show me on the show, just like Tao and Noah are in this current situation. But some people out there want to have a face to look at on the screen. I'm not so happy with my face that I just want to look at it for an hour or 2 hours. I just know that me and Spartan being on here generally tends to make more people click on it and hang around and be like, oh, look, there's actually people. And the fun thing is, uh, I'll listen in my car and stuff, so I'm not watching most podcasts anyway. And so the nameless, like the faceless voices are often the ones delivering great information. So I'm always happy to hear from whoever's got input and things like that. So we're all into our podcast for different reasons. I'll say that for sure. And I'm sure we have a bunch of different reasons for everybody here. And one of them might be you want to hang around just so you can become a moderator. And I'm seeing a distinct lack of wrenches in the chat. Unless they change the wrench. Is the wrench now a square? Because I'm seeing Caveman and Raptor, and I'm pretty sure that they were wrenches before. And now I'm just seeing a blue square. Are you seeing that now in your
I
chat?
think the blue square is the wrench.
Okay. I was like, man, where did
The
all our
blue square, I
wrenches
think it's a
go?
blue shield. I think they are protectors of the chat. They're
I
knighted.
see.
They are
Yes, they
knights
are.
and dames. I've learned that, and that's a new term for the female knight was a dame. I didn't know that.
There you go. Not night tent. So everybody out there, you learned something new today. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, there's a good one. There's another one. Um, it's a fucking Luann is one of them from not Housewives. She did the Crappy Lake. But she married like some royalty and became a duchess or a duke. She's a duchess. So it's I love the all the different titles. There was this really scammy thing, and we don't run ads, so I don't really worry. But YouTube might run ads over our thing, and this has long been gone. But it's called established titles, and you could be a lord or a lady, so they were saying they're like, oh, you buy a piece of land in Ireland or wherever, and it's like they sell you a 1 by 1 square foot plot. So then you're Lord, Russ, Spartan grown Patton. It's like no, there was total bullshit. Like they didn't even have the land that they said that they had, and they're just like
You
basically
buy
taking
like
people's
one
money and
square
sending them a
foot.
thing.
You buy like the smallest amount. Like you have 1 square foot at some fucking bog somewhere.
And it wasn't even that. Like it was like the promise of that, that they didn't even fulfill. So nobody was officially lorded or ladied. And I don't even think that's necessarily how that process works, but it was just taking advantage of people's one ignorance and
Honestly,
two
how would
want
that
for
even change
status.
your life? Think about it. I mean, how would that even
You
just
put it on your resume. I'm Lord Russ.
that just
People are gonna
if you think that
approach
matters, you should just
you
put
when
it
you
on
walk
your
in the
resume
room.
anyway, I think. You should just put it on there and
There
tell me
you go.
how much that works.
Hey, people fake everything else on their resume. I've had people ask
Yeah.
me, hey, can you be my boss for whatever? If somebody calls you, I was the manager at XYZ thing. I'm like, okay.
Vandalay Industries,
And very rarely if I ever
Vandalay
get those calls.
Industries.
I'm here to tell you that at least in the state of Michigan, it's probably over the whole fucking country, that it's a law that if you ever get called by that asking about past working, they can only ask if you work there, and that's it. Do they work there?
In
Yep.
California, it was if you work there and would you hire him again? I think were like the two
Oh,
questions.
is that
And
the
they
other
can't
thing? Okay.
they can't even elaborate. Like if you said no, you can't be like, no, because he, harassed a bunch of employees, or no, because he punched somebody in the face and lit the place on fire when he quit. Like
Yeah.
you can't
I
say
think it's
that.
something similar to that here, something like that. Yep. I think that's hilarious. So nobody, of
That
course,
just
nobody
blows me
calls. It's
away.
like you put down fucking Mickey Mouse if you want to. I don't think they're gonna call.
Or you could say you're the manager of a, if you have a gap in your resume at a, what is it, Toys R Us or a Blockbuster, something that's out of business now. District manager of
Oh, I love
Redbox.
that. That's hilarious.
Circuit City and soon to be Popeye's Chicken.
Popeye's chicken.
Is
Circus
Popeyes going
City.
down?
Hell
Oh no,
yeah.
no,
Yes, sir.
not the Popeyes. Not surprised. I guess you guys will probably buy it and then, bankruptcy, legal stuff, and just, probably take ownership and rebrand it and sell even cheaper, crappier stuff at probably the same prices and go bankrupt and sell it to somebody else again because they'll never let the name die. Maybe they will. Funny enough, I won't get into it. I was gonna say that was one of my screen names back in the day, but it was because of like a Adam Sandler movie, I think, Little Nicky. He was like really into Popeye's chicken, I think, and or one of the characters in that movie was. But yeah, it's a throwback right there. Speaking of Adam Sandler, I feel like Adam Sandler is sort of like the autoflower of cannabis.
What do you mean?
If you like with his content, if you go into an Adam Sandler movie expecting some highbrow shit that's real classy and elevated and like educational or elegant or refined, um, you're not going to get that, right? So, like, if you go into an autoflower expecting the chem dog, you're not going to get that. So, it's all about the expectation going in. Going in, you're getting something different, not necessarily like bad. It's like a comedy versus a drama or something, right? And maybe you don't even like his comedy. You might think, oh, he has dog shit humor, or maybe you love his comedy, and you know, everything in between. But I think
Tend to
that
like his
they're
stuff. I tend to like his stuff. I think his best work was probably the old stuff, like Happy Gilmore. Oh,
Happy Gilmore is
that's
one of
what
the
I was thinking
funniest
too.
movies alive. Waterboy is
yes.
second. Billy Madison is third. And I will say real quickly that Jim Carrey is the clone of the plant
Oh, it's
family.
funny you say that.
I like that reference there, Noah. I will say, not to debunk any crazy conspiracies out there, but a lot
I
of
don't think
celebrities
that's
sign.
crazy at
They
all.
sign their signatures with their
With that
offhand.
left, yeah, dude.
They're offhand. If they're
Dude.
left-handed, they'll use their right hand because they don't want to wear out their good hand. I have arthritis in both hands, so somebody who can relate to not wanting to wear out something that you use regularly. But there's other things I will say to the conspiracy. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I'm with you there. There's a lots of not just him, but there's lots of mask type crazy shit out there. So if you want to dive down those rabbit holes, there is some crazy like there's a verified case of a woman who worked in the CIA who was interviewing, I think it was Bill Clinton. And then after the interview, um, and they came in and talked to him again, and he had no idea it was the same person. He's like, "You didn't realize that I was a woman the whole time, like wearing a man's mask?" And it was like a different race and everything, and like
No, no, no.
completely.
That was George Bush Sr. And there's also a clip. I shouldn't have opened this rabbit hole real quick. I'll say though, there was a clip from 1997 when Bill Clinton, ironically, was president, talking about how they should make human cloning illegal in 1997. So, not to derail
A
the
lot of talk
cannabis
about that
talk.
in '01 too,
Dude,
when
they
back
cloned
when
Dolly the sheep
W
in
was
like the
in.
1980s, right?
Yeah, because the stem cell thing is still kind of. It was really during the George W. Bush era that got sort of regulated to the point of non-usability for a decade plus, and now it's sort of coming back into the forefront in medicine. But that's one of those things that, like cannabis, got demonized and overregulated. Many would say.
And
I'm
I'm
not
for
here nor there
clones.
about stem cells personally.
I'm all for clones, man. I don't know how you guys
Me
feel
too.
about it. They need to
GG4
clone me so that I have all these,
Kush.
interchangeable fucking organs that they can just pop in when there's an issue. Be like, oh, we'll swap that out for you. Ba bam, bam, bam.
I got some badass
Man,
duct
they've
tape
found
clones I'm
ears
going to
and
be potting
organs
up
on,
here soon.
There you go.
but they
We're
have
all
definitely
pro
done like
clone. We've been
that's
cloning
verified
forever.
shit. Would you
Before
go
I do that, I'm going to go
biological
look at some
clone
Jim
or
Carrey stuff.
robo clone?
Well,
Go
robo
ahead,
clones, I don't trust the
Noah.
machines, man. I have trust issues with machines, unfortunately.
You're
So
already trusting them, bro. You're already trusting them.
no,
You've
I'm
got
not.
an air conditioner, you've
Where?
got a heater
I got my
in
windows
your
open right
house.
there. That's my air conditioner right
I
there.
mean,
No, I want to
but
know
you
how
have
long.
it for your grow can explode, bro. All these things can break, catch on fire, and kill you. It's just a matter of
No,
how the
they kill my
technology is
plants. They're
applied.
not killing me.
Our cars can. Everyone's like, "Oh, you drive an electric car. What if the government comes and turns it off in the middle of the road?" It hasn't happened to me or anybody yet who owns them. However, my mother-in-law she's been driving and keeping alive. She was driving the other day and blew through a fucking red light because her rotor fell off of her fucking truck. So shit happens to mechanical art. It can happen to the old school tech. It can happen to the new school tech. So stay up with your
So
maintenance,
what you're
people.
saying
Good
is
brakes, good
don't
tires. That's
fucking
good
get the
too.
robo body
Stop.
because shit breaks. That's what you're saying. See?
Or
That's
yeah,
why
or don't.
mistrust is
Maybe
good.
the mob's after her, cutting her brake lines or something. Who knows? It's still in
How
the shop. They still haven't diagnosed
if they clone me though?
how
How
it
long
would
is it going
happen.
to take for the thing to be big enough for me to take parts off of it?
Well, here's the thing, Tao. You don't need to clone an actual
Oh, they
human.
just do the
They grew
parts
like an
themselves,
ear on a
right? Yeah,
mouse.
yeah. Okay.
On the back of a mouse, they grew a human ear and then they surgically removed
Oh
it and put it on a
wow.
person's head. They've done that. They've also done in a petri dish, they've grown bladders, a human bladder
Stem
that they
cells,
pulled
baby.
from a petri dish, put into a human. So these
You
things have
you
already
donate your stem
verified
cell and it
happening.
just grows into what you need it to be.
Well,
All right.
I'm not going to throw my fellow panelists on the bus, but I do know that for a fact that there is a researcher on this panel currently I see on a lot of reels that I'm looking into. But I'm sorry to derail the conversation with my Jim Carrey call comment.
It's all good, man. We're having fun here, and we're about to open up the panel to hopefully the dog doctor will get this link. I'm going to send it to everybody, though. You're all welcome to come on, show off your gardens, come hang out, ask questions, have fun, maybe throw a little ideas out there if you have some interesting ones. We're just trying to have a little bit of fun. I meant to keep it more on the 12-12 conversation, but we kind of, I think, all got our points in over there, and we'll just
Unfortunately, I got to
keep
split,
rolling.
boys. So
And Tal let us know that at the top, so.
I'm
Tal, real
sorry.
quick, do you like books?
Not really. I like
I've
yeah.
been,
I don't have time for books. I read a lot on the internet and yeah, current, but
there's a lot of really cool old books on stuff that I'm
that I would be interested in. You know that.
absolutely well, not you, just someone you might know.
Right.
But you
Right.
have a good one, brother.
All right, man. Thanks, everyone. We'll catch you either here next week or in between. Everybody have a great week. Keep growing. Peace out.
See you later, Tal. Good having you, buddy.
All right, man. Wait.
What about you guys? Are you guys into books?
I'm okay, and I've read books before. That's for sure.
I've been down a big rabbit hole, and I have spent an embarrassingly amount of money on books recently.
I was
But
just gonna say I don't like paying for books stuff,
oh
but
god, the good ones you can't find in the library, bro.
some of them you can't. You're right, but you can get You can find most books on the used bookstores, though, a lot of them. You can
Oh
get a lot,
yeah.
even a lot of the obscure ones and stuff. That's where I go. Is the
Thrift
used book.
books, A books, you name
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Thrift books is a
I'm
good
in
one.
there. I'm in there.
Yeah,
I
there's a
think that
really good
reading
one
is
called Burning Rainbow Farms, about a story here in Michigan that kind of got buried because of 9/11 happened at the same time, and it's
Dude, the
although
next time
it's
I go to the casino, if I win a little bit of money, I'll send you guys a book. It's called it's called Climate Gate, The Marijuana Conspiracy, and Operation Bluebeam. It's a crazy looking book. It's very hard to find. They're not that expensive on thrift books, but it's all about the whole reason that marijuana is illegal. And then it has a big dude, it's a crazy book. And
that sounds like an awesome book. I would
it's
definitely read
it's
that.
about marijuana, you know what I'm saying? It's about
Yeah.
cannabis. So, and it's an older book too. It's from like the 90s, I think. So um I'm gonna get it myself.
Spartan as a Michigander. Do you have any thoughts on the Rattlesnake Island? As there's recently been another island that's been controversial. For those who might not be familiar, there was a similar island to one that's recently been talked about a lot in Michigan, allegedly linked to some of the car dealerships, and it's like a private thing. If you pull up to it with your boat, they approach you with security. You heard about this? Do you have any thoughts on that whole
I have
thing?
not heard about Rattlesnake Island. That's news to me. I'll have to do some looking into. No,
It was
unfortunately, I
disguised as
haven't.
like a Christian
That's
boys
an odd
camp,
name for that's
private.
odd for a
Uh,
name for island in Michigan where there's no real rattlesnake. There's a Michigan rattler, but they're fucking pretty extinct. So that's a really odd name for an island.
Well, speaking of rattlers, you want to keep them? I actually saw one of those the other day. I will jokingly say saved a kid's life, but some little boy jumped off his e-bike and got right up next to it and was trying to film it. He's like, I gotta send this video to my dad. He's not gonna believe it. I'm like,
What the
dude,
fuck?
back up. That thing can bite you and kill you. Like, back up a step. Give it some space. Respect nature. And he's like, really? I'm like, yeah, really. You're a little boy. That's a rattlesnake. It'll bite you and you can die. But speaking of things that you want to keep rattlesnakes away from, dogs. We got Dog Doctor in the building. What
Bro,
up,
bro.
Dog Doctor? How you doing?
Hey, buddies. Can you guys hear me with this?
Yeah, I can hear
Yeah,
you.
we hear
Maybe
you
turn your
good,
Yep.
camera to
man.
the side so we can get the full screen.
Good to see you again,
Oh,
man.
true. Sorry. Hey, Spartan.
No
Hey,
worries, man.
how? I just left. Hey, Noah. Hey, Jack. Hey, everybody. Nice to see you. It's been a while. Hope everybody's doing great. Oh my God, I have so much to talk about 12-12 when you guys were talking. I have so completely different experience with the 12-12 from Seed, guys. Seriously, for real. You guys will see the garden and will judge by yourself. But I honestly think that plants behave in such a different way morphologically because they are growing straight away from 12-12. So let me flip the camera. And what happened is, wait, I cannot think much at the same time. Flip the camera. And let me do also another thing. Let me bypass the Troll Master, otherwise it's a disco in there. Sorry. Yeah. This way, no disco. So all of this you guys are seeing here is grown under 12-12 from seeds. This is a mix of autoflowers and photoperiodics, all of them behaving more or less of the same in terms of timings. We are now on week 14 from the moment I placed the seed on water, on the can in this case. So plus a week on germination, this and that, soil, and this is how they grew. The aces, you guys were talking about the ace. I have one over here. Oh my God, if this did not do 12-12 from seed, it's almost 2 meters tall,
Yeah.
you know? I mean, I cannot imagine growing this thing, vegging her for whatever time it was. And honestly, I don't see small plants here, or they are not huge plants, but for the most part, and the fruits, this doesn't focus and I cannot bloom. Can I? No.
You don't think they're any smaller than your old plants?
Not really. I mean, Jack, you saw my growth.
Yeah, to me they look a little bit more. There's a lot more space between the plants than there used to be.
There used to be four more plants in here. There's one outside here that I already harvested. It's drying and it's in jars and stuff.
But even like the tops, like you can see that there's an apical bud on almost every single one of them, and there's not like an even
I did not
canopy,
top
so to speak.
any. I did not training at all in any plant you see here. The maximum I did was grabbing the leaves and putting them down.
And I'm
So
not saying
they
it's
are
not impressive or good. I'm saying it is very good, especially considering you're not having to veg. So you're like we talked about with the yield over the year, you're going to get more per year per square meter. But um,
He's also less work too. It sounds like he's not really having to do a lot of plant training because of the
yeah,
exactly. I have
um,
no work at all, pretty much. So there's a lot
Brandon
of
does
time saving in there.
like a single topping when he does his beds when he's not doing like a pheno hunt. And I think that you get more even supply of tops. Like I would say if I'm looking at this room, there's like 15 to 20 apical tops, but then there's like 100 shoulder buds that would be like 6 to 10 inches down that are still great. Those are some of my favorite buds. But when you do a veg, I think it's impossible to sit here and pretend that if I had some time to veg it out and train it, that I wouldn't have more of the tops evenly with that top apical bud, or
Yes,
even just
sir.
topping it a single time.
Yes, sir. It
But
would
it's a
be more
trade-off.
even.
It's a balance.
And it's not for all. If you have a plant counts, this may work for you or may not work for you because not all genetics are behaving the same. We are seeing a lot of different phenotypes, and this will be finishing first, that will be finishing. So it's a
I
little
think
bit
what this
harder
shows
to
though is
play.
sorry to cut you off, is what Spartan said at the beginning is it's a tool. You grew that haze that you would never have been able to grow in this 12-12 from seed. And it allowed you to do that and have a plant that you can manage, harvest in a regular time, get a good yield out, good quality out, and not have to worry about like running it 10-14 and throwing everything else off. Or, if you veg it a little too long and it's literally through your lights, like I've seen people do when they do veg, or cutting off the bottom third or half the plant, like a lot of people do when they veg for too long, or just veg at all. A lot of people are naked down at the bottom where yours are pretty much buds from top to bottom, even if the bottoms are, getting less light, that can be made into hash, that can be made into concentrate, etc. So it's not,
Yep.
uh, and like we were talking about earlier with the plant training, even this, like you're not having to remove a bunch of leaf because the buds aren't so packed so densely, all at the same levels. It's easier to get airflow through it. There's tons and tons of benefits, and then I'd say just a
Like
few drawbacks in terms of like the evenness and the fullness of like if I was to min max and try and get the total maximum amount of yield out of that exact tent you're in right now, I would do things a little bit differently. But
what
that's not what your goal was. Your goal
at all.
was you're doing 12-12 from seed and you have a bunch of different flavors and you're going to be able to pull them down 2 to 6 weeks earlier than somebody who's vegging.
Something like this. I don't know how long because I think the room is pretty damn close to get finished. Not all of it, but over the next couple of weeks for sure it will be ready to harvest. And what I
I
noticed
bet it's smelling
is,
good in there. What strains are
oh
you rocking?
man,
I know you used to rock a lot of runts and a lot of Zamnesia stuff.
this is awesome easy stuff. So what do I have here? Let's start here. Lemon cherry gelato,
You've always been a fan
beautiful.
of the gelatos. I think even that's one that's been around for a while, right? You've had LCG for a little bit.
This one, this is my first time growing it. Everything I'm growing here is the first time. I mean, I grow everything from seed. This
Okay,
is
brand new
animal,
each time.
everything. Animal mints, this one and this one.
You used to grow stuff from clone too, right? This is a newer
Yes,
development that you're growing from seed only, right?
but I recently, this is my second run. I signed up with Amnesia, and I'm growing a bunch of different strains. So there's really not space to clone and to keep keepers for now. I need to organize things better so that I can do that if I want to save some keepers. But for now, all I grow, I catalog, and then I move to the next run. A bunch of different flavors, yes, always. This is a collaboration between Zamnesia and the artist, which I'm not remember now. It's a nectar drip. It's a cross of 24K golds plus apple fritter, and
That's
it's
fire.
looking.
I bet you that's gonna be some killer smoke.
Oh man, it's looking good. I already harvested
The
one that I
24K
could.
gold is legit. And apple
It's
fritter, a lot of people like it. I know Noah didn't necessarily love. Was it a Hermie thing with the lumpies cut or whatever? No, what was your issue with the apple fritter? Are you still growing it, or why'd you drop it if you're not?
my,
It's one of the ones where I wonder sometimes, but I'm growing for specific things and it just didn't quite hit the mark. No, it didn't. It did not herm. I would never have run it more than once if it hermed, like no chance. Even if it showed thrown serious bananas. But no, it just okay. It I just didn't think that it was a pretty decent yielder too, but I just didn't think it tasted as good as my Sherbafio or my duct tape. And those are the two that I'm growing like pretty heavily for myself. And then once in a while, I'll throw a few in there. Like right now, they got OG Kush, and I was thinking about getting that, but
You should
yeah,
try it if
Yeah,
you
it's
my
haven't.
complaint, let's be honest, Noah, too, because my biggest complaint with that thing is it just didn't get me high. What about you?
right, right. That's what I'm.
Okay,
Well,
there
yeah,
we go.
and you're right. So that's what I'm saying. I mean, have you guys ever smoked really good grown duct tape?
I don't
I've had a
know.
really
I
good
don't think
duct
I've
tape a
smoked the
couple
duct
times.
tape. I smoked some crosses, but I don't think I've smoked just duct tape.
Okay, so duct tape is do-si-dos crossed with Gorilla Glue, and it is very good. Okay, so it'll
I love
literally
Gorilla
I
Glue, so I believe you.
dude, you guys, I just got done trimming it, literally since we've been on the show. Well, no, that's why I'm right before the show, and I'm doing a bunch of work right now. But the scissors, literally, the scissors are so you can tell the difference. They literally stick together. Your hands, like just from like handling the butt a little bit, I go to open the door and it cakes trichomes from my gloves on the doors. The THC level, and you do not get that from apple fritter, in my opinion. So that's why I'm just, you know what I mean? Like, I don't have, I wish I had time to grow through a whole bunch of seeds like that. And eventually I will, but like, right, dude, I'm like, yeah, I'm running behind. You know what I'm saying? So, and
It's
it's
all good, man.
already,
We're
yeah,
all doing the best we can for the most part, and if we're
totally.
not, we're trying to get there.
Yep.
all we
And
can
it
do,
sounds like he
man.
was doing not a pure apple fritter, but a cross of apple fritter and 24K gold. And I think it was the 24K gold could punch it
Sir,
up a
yes,
little bit in
sir.
terms of the potency,
Hmm.
which that
It's nectar
24
drip.
karat is fire.
It's 24K plus the apple
Nectar
fritter.
drip.
Yes,
It
sir.
sounds fire. Because I will say
It's
the apple fritter I thought tasted pretty good. I also agree with you guys. Pure, it's a little bit of a mild high, not the strongest stuff. I think like Lumpy's headband, much stronger, much more potent if you're looking for potent stuff. But yeah,
this
apple fritter's
thing is
notoriously
heavy.
pretty big yielder. And I think for most general smokers, it'll get them. But if you're like a connoisseur, heavy daily user, it might not be the go-to knock you on your ass kind of thing.
I don't know about heal, but I don't think I have any plant here that will heal less than 150 grams.
And the other thing I was gonna say is quality. You were just showing your
No.
fingers were sticking together like super
Oh
glue, very,
man.
very sticky, and that's always a good
And
sign.
I'm touching like this. I'm just touching like this just to show the buds. Uh, look again.
I love this stage, when they're late flower. It's just reeking in there, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
man. It's the never-ending phase. It's everyday looking and what's ready,
Potpourri
what's
of
not.
cannabis.
It's man. And when people say under canopy light doesn't make the difference, here is the what doesn't make the difference. I did almost no training, as you guys can see in here. Look at this.
Those are still quality.
This is
I will say,
it's not C. It's kind of it's not a D or C. I don't know, but it's B quality. It's not here, but it's not far from it, man.
no, I'm with you. I thought that they were A's back in the day. I had a couple that even without underlighting, just with tons of light from the top, and I removed almost every. I didn't have as many as you did down there, but I had like one or two that looked really nice like that. And when they dried up, they were a little bit smaller yielder, but usually nice and tasty, good smoke still. So I'd say like a B, but they're definitely not a C. Not something I'm going to turn into hash. I'll keep that to smoke. And cool to see the
This is a
underlighting
C.
working for you
This
and
I
so
will
many
throw into
others.
hash. This I will probably throw
I'm
into
with that.
house.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah, I'm with you there.
this I will throw in the jar.
Right.
This is good buds. Unless I'm frozen the whole plant, which I did with one of it already, and still I saved a few ones to take the taste. That's workable.
It's looking
This
awesome,
one
man.
is a
And to do this from seed is also a bit of a challenge, just because, like we were talking about earlier, you have different phenome
I like
expressions, different
I,
heights, different
I
variants.
like.
It's a fun challenge, though.
But one
That's how
thing
I
that
was
I'm
doing it for a long
noticing,
time, all from seed,
but
brand
if
new
you
every time.
noticed, for the most part, they all behave kind of this. No, this is an LSD. These trees are different. They grow. Not, actually, this one is not. But for the most part, they have all about I don't know, 1 meter 60 tall, 1 meter 50 because of the pot,
It's
which
like
is a
5 foot
plant
something.
good size. I have to take them out of the tent and put them in to take photos and do content with them. If that one is not going anywhere, it's all in there. This one is not going anywhere. This thing is way too heavy to
So
get
many
moved.
yo-yos already holding her up.
Yeah. Otherwise, she was on the floor.
Fucking beautiful though, man. She's fucking beautiful.
I'm in love with her, man. I really need to organize space to keep keepers, or at
Yeah.
least to make clones for a few, because, dude, I'm this tent here. I mean, there's a lot of things here that are out of flowers. Like this is another flower I cannot keep, but this I could keep. That I could
Yeah,
keep, and
that
that
you could
works
keep.
under 1212 from seeds, you know.
Imagine that outside,
And
bro.
this either you live in a
For
place
our
where
non,
you have a very long summer, or she
You could
won't finish in
light
time.
up her, and then just get her to flip her
Dep is
Yeah,
the
over.
way for
true,
sure. Dep is
true.
the
But
way.
then it's a mix of outside greenhouse,
True, true.
I know most of the
outside,
world uses
outside.
metric, but
That's a
for those
sword.
who
Look at
don't,
that.
two
Oh
two
my
Dude,
God.
meters, like you were
it's
saying, that's about 6 feet and 6 inches, point,
it's
six
not
feet
2 meters.
six
It's
inches,
about 1 meter 80. 1 meter 80. It's still
180.
very tall. Still 180.
The
It's still very tall.
1 meter 60, what you said earlier is 5 feet 3 inches, roughly. And so
Okay.
180, I should remember these because in high jump, these were a lot of the uh, calculations. But yeah, 180 is 5 feet 10.8 inches. So like 5'11.
And
So
this thing is rock solid. Look at it's
that's going to
really.
yield really
I'm
well. When
excited
you can
for you, and
squeeze it
I
like
wish I
that
could
and they
reach
don't,
through the screen and grab that fucking nog, man.
especially knowing that it's haze. Like there's some hazes in here.
Yeah.
Like
Oh yeah, it is ace.
haze is
No
like,
doubt
in my
about it.
opinion, one of the even a haze cross, like a Jack the Ripper or a Cindy 99, something that's got like a little bit of a haze in there, like is still a super enjoyable smoke in my personal experience.
I like it. We in Europe we had a lot of aces back in the days was mostly what we have, but a good ace, I think it's something needed in a jar always. You know what I mean? I like to have a lot of flavors, but ace is one of the must ones to have
I love that
always.
haze was big in Europe, and I think it makes sense for anywhere that, people, it's like a coffee almost, like it's a pick me up for a lot of people, or it's just like a psychedelic kind of ultra trippy, crazy high. But something more energetic, especially if you're cutting it in like a spliff, maybe throwing some Afghan hash or Moroccan hash in there. Uh, you know,
Oh yeah.
different type of
Oh
smoking
yeah.
over there than a lot of us. You still
Now we
smoke
talk.
spliffs, or are you pure flower guy now that you're growing all this dank?
I like spliff, man. You know, and I like a mix of everything. I like to do cocktails with weed and hash, and with I put oils on the outsides. I mix it all. I kind of like the flavors. And I'm a this is on it. There's the disco. See,
What's the
that's why it's
disco
a
effect for?
the disco is not a fake for it. The drivers on the Troll Masters, they make the frame rate on the camera do this. So I don't
Oh,
see
I
this with
see.
my eyes, but the camera sees all.
My camera does the same thing with one of my lights.
But if I go to these sides, it doesn't do because the drivers on these ones
That's so bizarre,
apparently are
man.
better. One thing I noticed about I can show you one thing. We started here, so here 12 from seed. We started with seeds at 500 ppfd almost. About day 3, they were in 500 PBFD and they were adapting. Second week, 500 still. Third week, 6 to 700. Fourth, 6 to 7 still. And then we started to raise it up all the way to 1,600 because of that thing up there. But the rest of it, 8 to 900 to about 1,000 the taller tops.
Wow.
And
I would think that you'd see it come down a little bit at the end, like maybe the last week or two,
yeah,
not keep going up.
that's what I'm doing now. It's coming
Oh, I see it
down.
now. Okay.
And now it's coming down again, and now we're gonna entering the next weeks, and I will bring it down again a little bit more. Also, I'm bringing down the whites. I don't know if you can see, but the spectrum is a little bit more red
Yeah.
because I don't really need so much whites or blues or whatever the dial that it is. But the reds will help them, to my belief, will help them get finished faster. And
Uh-huh.
also, I'm doing extra 15 minutes just reds,
Bar reds or
fire reds. And
okay, nice.
actually, I have all the reds.
Okay, far reds and deep red then.
Yeah, and everything that is red is on for 15 minutes in the end. Just that.
Okay.
In the
And you're
beginning, I
doing
don't do
12
that.
hours. So you're doing 12 hours, and then after 12 hours, it does that 15 minutes.
Yes. So 12
Okay.
plus 15.
All
Only
right.
now in flower and only now and only after mid flower, kind of like this. In the
Do you know what the
beginning, I was
intensity of those reds are at 15 minutes? Like, is it like super intense or is it not that intense? Is it like 200 ppfd? Is it 500 ppfd of red? What is it?
actually, you got me curious. I did not test.
Okay, okay.
I tested the lights on, but I did not test the lights with the reds. And it's a good question and one that I want to know now. Thank you.
Yeah,
First
no
of all,
problem.
that's a really nice one. I was saying, so for the first 4 weeks, if you noticed, they were growing to the light. They almost don't grow, and then
Yeah.
they start growing super fast.
Yep.
And so in here, they focus remaining on roots. And when they grow under 12-12 from seeds, to my understanding and to what I've been studying and hearing from others that do the same, including Dominic, which is the study you were talking about, is from Dominic. The guy is from Holland, and he has a big company that does tests and stuff. It's a really good study. Everybody should actually see it. And I lost myself. So for the first weeks, plant is focusing solo on roots, so it
It's
almost
kind of
doesn't
veg almost
grow.
still.
Yeah. Then it starts vegging for a week and a half, not even that. And then it's vegging and pre-flowering and behaving like an out of flower sort of, because it's doing all of it at the same time. It's very curious, and all of it, and I noticed that because the out of flowers were growing side by sides, and everyone, out of flower or no out of flower, behaves exactly the same way in terms of morphology growing.
That's
And
fucking interesting as hell. That's cool.
what I think is, as plant is growing under the season he's ending, she thinks, fuck, I need to procreate.
Yeah.
So
And those
she's
autoflowers are thinking that from the get too, because they're already thinking that.
exactly
Yeah, that's
they are
cool.
already thinking that from already the ruderal is thinking them. So if the plant is thinking like this, what happens? She will first grow the roots so that
Yep.
she can stand the fruits to get pollinated. Even if she doesn't know, she will not be pollinated in here.
Yeah, she's
And
got
that's
to
why,
get her roots down just to hold herself up even.
exactly. And that's why they grow. And then it's kind of like this, man. It's fruits everywhere waiting to get pollinated with almost no training. I mean, I don't consider doing this
Yeah.
much training. You know what I mean? It's
And you're
man, I
auto
was
watering,
taught
you have auto pots still? You
no,
got
no, hand watering
oh,
everything.
you're hand watering all these.
I'm
Oh,
having
damn.
fun. Yeah, I
So you
take
are
this
doing some
That's where all
pot.
work.
the work comes in.
That's where the
That's
work
where the
is.
fun. Yes, yes, that's where the
Okay.
But
work. I
it's
mean,
not work if it's a passion. It's a labor of love. I love hand watering
I
my
love it.
plants.
I love it.
Well, it's looking
I could
beautiful. I mean,
easily have installed a auto watering system. I really like watering
Dude,
them. It's a
I have
connection.
those with the auto pots there. Those 6 are the solo ones, not get. And honestly, I know I didn't defoliate that much in that corner, but I honestly think that the hand watering ones did performing way better.
that
I
makes
believe it.
sense, man. Because
I believe it.
oh, You just
The
And
dry
don't
back
know
is
to
so
grow it,
important, and I
man.
don't think auto
Yeah.
watering allows it sometimes. And I think
no,
even with my earth
yeah.
box, I'll let the dry back happen sometimes, where it's I'm not letting the plant drought, but drying back the reservoir for
Well,
a
the
day
argument
or
with that
two.
is you can do that with the auto watering. You just go turn it
Just turn
off.
it off.
You just turn
Yeah.
it off.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep, yep, yep.
that's what I do. I turn it off to do dry outs. But even doing the dry outs, either you go there and you do that every day, or you're doing that every 5 or 6 days. And in here, you can do the dry out, especially if you have meters in the soil, so that you have the notions of what plant
Nice.
is drinking or not. So you can actually regulate the dry out.
Yeah, and
I
Love it.
dose
this
how much water you give to them, how much runoff, etc.
that and how much food is there also. You don't need to do runoffs. You can just water perfectly, kind of.
Off the watering, I want to say just one thing before because we talked about lights for a second and I didn't squeeze it in there, which is I think you should try at least one run, cut out all the reds at the end, go fucking straight up blue, metal halide style. I know guys that still swear by. There's some hermit out there in a basement closet, home grow or commercial setup somewhere who's still probably running fucking metal halides and swearing that it's the best quality shit. And I've smoked some of their shit and it's fire as fuck every time. So those
I
people that swear by
recommend
it, I'm like,
everyone
there's
do
probably
that.
something to it.
If you have a way to spectrum tune, I recommend everyone do that last week to take the reds out. Throw all the heavy blue spectrum last week and
I'm
it's
even
So
like a
saying
just
like
finishing
just
spectrum.
whites, you mean,
several
kind of
weeks
like
go
the
all blue,
blues?
all blue,
Okay, I still
all
can do
blue.
Because
that.
what
Even
it
I'm
is, it
saying
kind
people
of
who
pushes
flower the whole
quality, right?
cycle under blue, but you're gonna lose quality or not quality. You're gonna lose quantity,
I don't
and you're
care
gonna
about that.
aim
That's why you
for
do, yeah, that's why you don't only do it last week because it's not a long enough period to really affect the quantity even. And you're pushing more blue light, and that blue light is going to push higher cannabinoids and possibly a few terpenes as well. But definitely the white
a
papers show higher
handful
cannabinoids. So
terpenes. And I also, not that it matters, but anthocyanin production. That blues, man. He get those beautiful purple, fucking red, orange. Just even the greens look better under a blue spectrum for whatever reason. I don't know what it is. I'll sacrifice a little bit of yield sometimes, just fuck around with the ultra blue and get rid of all my red as much as I can. And seeing people that have more spectrum tunability, or like the guys, I know a guy who's got modern LEDs. He's got ceramic metal halides. He's got HPS. He's
All
got
in.
uh, metal halide. Like he's got every single style, and he's got some plants that he still likes growing under metal halide. And he's got like one room or area or tent. I'm not going to give too much detail. He's very private, and they swear the metal halide. The fact that they still use, and it's not even like a new metal halide. It's like an old school fucking metal halide. And I've smoked some of the stuff out of it, and it's definitely surpassed some of my modern LED or ceramic metal halide or even HPS cultivation. So it goes to show me that like as deep as you get into this rabbit hole, there's another pocket that you can open up and be like, man, maybe you fucking get a little metal halide to mess around with or something. I don't know. Not really actually suggesting that, but maybe somebody out there is going to be influenced enough by hearing. I think even more so to spectrum tunability. Get yourself a blue bar. Throw a blue bar in to add extra blue. Get yourself a spectrum tuning light that you can cut the reds out, whether it's science, whether it's GML, whether it's the grow cropter that was tested on my grow that looks like a helicopter that has telescoping cob style like pucks that
and
are.
don't forget the cheap home grow solution too. Your standard grow light with a booster bar to supplement. Now
That's what I'm saying.
you
Yeah.
can somewhat spectrum tune by
Dude, you could
dimming it,
throw a
turning it.
blue filter in front of it, like if it's not too close that it's getting burnt. Like LEDs are literally changing their colors by just slapping a little filter over it. It's like, okay, here's my little LED, and I'm just gonna put a little piece of phosphor over it, and that phosphor changes from 3,000 to 3,250 to 3,500 to 3,750, and I'm just stacking that little red over it, or it might be going the opposite direction, right? So I'm using more of it to make a darker color, which would be lower. So each layer goes from like 3,000 to 2,750 to 2,500. But a lot of people don't know or even care about the Kelvin spectrum, but essentially getting redder or bluer by providing more or less of a coating because its base is a certain coating. It might be 5,000 Kelvin, but by applying more red layers to it, or even using different, there's so many factors that go into it now. The base diode, like there's so many different options, and a lot of them are extremely efficient. So lucky for us, it's there's never been a better time to grow cannabis, and it's only going to keep getting better. So keep growing or get growing if you're not already, and be like Dog Doctor. fucking pop a bunch of seeds, grow some shit. And even if you're not popping seeds, grow a bunch of clones. Be like Noah. Have a fucking killer cut that is your reference standard. Be like, the Spartan growing, Spartan kicking shit. If it comes into the garden and it doesn't meet up and replace something that you already have, then let it go. We don't have to hold on to every single one. Tao, I know you're not here anymore, but you gave your final thoughts and shout outs. I'm just giving you a
He's
little bit of
here
a
with
rib. I
us.
would give you that same shit if you were here. He's notoriously bad at letting plants go. So he had this really ugly plant for like over a year that never even yielded anything, but he hung on to it. And it was like a freak of a plant. But I gotta respect him because there's those people out there that are willing to go the lengths for every single one. I've learned, especially when you start making your own seeds and popping and getting gifted seeds and being a little bit overly ambitious with your buying of seeds, so you have way more than you need, that when you pop a bunch, you can you have to call. You have to call. You have to kill a few off. You're not going to grow every single seed all the way out unless you want to deal with some really shitty runts on more regular occasion than you would like to admit. So I think it's it's handy to be able to say, hey, I'm going to take the best 10 out of these 15, or the best 5 out of these 15, or the best 10 out of 20, like be choosy and then gift those plants away. Go put them out in nature somewhere. Like transplant it into I don't know, open nature reserve somewhere. Like do whatever you want with it. Give it to a friend, but pop a bunch of seeds or take a bunch of cuts so that you have a ton to work with and you can take the best ones. Like that was a tip I got from Noah from clones that I applied to seeds. Take way more than you need because then you can keep your best ones. And then you've got a bunch of killers. You got a bunch of A clones, not just A buds. You got the A clones. The A clones make the A buds, right? So you're starting off on that strong foot. You're not starting off with a weak shrimp dick fucking barely has a little tiny root squirting out the side. And yeah, it's alive, but it's like it's gonna need to be nursed to health for that first couple weeks. And so that compared to the one that has roots just busting out of the cube or whatever it is. I like the little clone collars. I love just when you lift that thing up and you start seeing those nubs, and in like the next day or two, you're just gonna open it up and see a whole bunch of sometimes little thick kind of stabby roots, but oftentimes really long, just wispy roots swirling around and things like that. But that's one of the best feelings in growing, I think. Seeds popping and seeing those roots come through in your cloner, lifting that little tray up after they've just been sitting in water, bubbling around for a few days, and boom, roots everywhere. You're like, oh, hell yeah. Like taking that out, transplanting that, and just going on with life. And it's one of those things that makes it really exciting is even if you've done it 100 times, it can still feel good. It's like this is what's supposed to happen, but it's like baking that sourdough or whatever, going in, I'm gonna have a nice loaf of sourdough if I do this right at the end. But when you put it all together just right and all the steps of the process are done properly, it feels good to crush it. And I know Noah's out there having dank harvest, dog doctors over here doing it with seeds, and I think it's nice because and important to display. Both are perfectly fine and viable options. You can grow killer clone grow grow after grow. If you love that duct tape, it's got that do-si-do Gorilla Glue. I love both of those strains, and I love duct tape itself. I love all three involved in the equation. So like I understand why Noah grows it and holds on to it. And I understand why everybody who keeps cuts does it. It's like you found a gem. It's just like with Lady Greenstock. I found an amazing woman. I'm not letting her go. Locked it down. I'm staying with her. I love her, and hopefully, we're together until we die or whatever it is. And I just I feel like when you have something really good, you don't want to let it go. And so whether it's a person, family, loved one, whatever it is, but a cut, even it's those keepers are hard to come by, and it's easy also to be on the other end of the spectrum and think that everything's a keeper. So being selective, being choosy, and having that reference standard, having met someone of her quality, then there's a bunch of other not Lady Greenstocks out there that aren't worth your time and wasting the headache on because they might harm, they might under yield, they might not get you high. Sorry, Lumpa's head, or Lumpy's cut. I went from Lumpies to Lumpas, which I compared those earlier, thinking that it was the same thing. Those are two different people. So correction of earlier, Jack. We'll rewind like 30 minutes when I said Lumpa's headband is pretty good and potent, and I was talking about Lumpies. So Lumpy, Lumpa, Loop, Lumpy and Loompa, two different people. Loompa Farms and Lumpy.
Sounds like you're singing a Willy Wonka song now.
I know. I'm gonna start turning orange. But yeah, it's just fascinating, man. There's so much diversity, and like I said, maybe last week's show or before, there's even so many shows out there that like it's hard for me as a cannabis fan who listens to a lot of shows and podcasts to know about all of them. Like we just got added to a list of all these shows, and I was like, I know like 3 out of 10. So I had a lot more researching and developing, and like some of them are no longer shows anymore. They're on the list still, but they only did like 10 episodes or 20 or 50 or 80 episodes or something like that, and they're just not producing anymore for one reason or another. Some of them are on their 10th episode and they're still making them, so they're brand new, and I just haven't heard about it because I hadn't looked it up recently enough. And the algorithm is particularly horrible at serving us what we want to see in terms of cannabis content because it wants to censor it and shadow ban it and just outright delete accounts still. So fuck Meta and other pages that do that. So that's just a shame that we still even have to deal with that. But X has gotten better. YouTube, mm, they let us exist. So I won't complain too
I
much.
cannot
And
say the
shout
same.
out to the podcast platforms.
I lost my account.
Yep. Spartan has, Brandon has like 15 times. I lost mine once recently. Thankfully got it back. And I'm just like, I'm not using it anymore. It's a museum. It's a reference piece. Like I'm just gonna let it hang out there. I'll use the DMs, but I'm not posting anything. So it's just a little digital archive of sorts. And it's funny because I've looked back at a few different things and hobbies and forums and stuff where I've written stuff. And it's like, man, I just read some writing that I wrote like 20 years ago. It's funny to like see like, man, I still agree with this, but I'm a kind of I was a shittier writer back then. I'm still not great now, but I was a much shittier writer then, and it's fun to see how we progress and some of the views that we hold consistent. I think that's a good mark of an individual is like when they have an opinion about something if it hasn't changed over, I've known Spartan on this show and seeing his garden, it has evolved and he's taken products in and he's let products go. But the general consensus of it, I have an idea of. It's not like, and granted, he's doing experiments right now with Grandmaster Nutrients and he's got DWC, which I know has always been his arsenal, and said, he's even referenced in the past, like, I want to bring this out for experiments sometime, and he finally did. So it's cool to see that. But I know at the core, you're a city picker guy. You're a guy who uses organic, soil amendments to build up a soil that you use run after run after run, and that works for you. And I think that's awesome. But then there's also guys like Dog Doctor who come on, and for a long time, probably still is the case, are using a specific nutrient line that they're having lots of success with. I don't know if you've changed from that or I see um, a few
So
different
yes,
things. You got,
sir, I changed. Now I'm using Playground.
I was gonna say, I
It's an
saw the
art
banner in the background. It used to be, do you mind saying what your old
Aptus.
one was?
No,
And
not at all.
any
I'm an
reason why the
open book.
switch? Just a better deal with them, or do they think they actually work better?
No, let me flip the camera. Sorry. What happened was the guy that I was in contact in there, and it was my friend. It became my friend. He moved himself from Aptus to Playground. And when he did that, he was my soulmate in there. And the main reason I love the nutrients, they worked amazing. As you
I
guys
got a
know,
lot of
I had
respect for that.
amazing results. And when he moved, for me, it felt like I should move with him. So the opportunity came and I moved with him. So nothing against one or the other. I had great results on one side. I had a video explaining on YouTube, but unfortunately, YouTube erased the accounts. But that was what happened. So shout out to Aptos for all this. It was 5 years with him and with them in there, and now we have a new beginning with Playground and
Dude, I
with
remember when you got, because you came on the show before you had the F2 sponsor. So you've been
so
coming
yes,
on the show
sir.
for over 5 years. That's fucking wild. We've had guests reoccurring for 5 years. This is just like, I know it's
Yes,
probably like a
sir.
no duh for some people, but like, yeah, that was kind of like the COVID era or whatever. But damn, things have come a long
You
way. Dog Doctor, you
you
got a
let
new mask.
Yeah, I was
I
gonna
remember the
say.
old rubber.
Yeah, no more I don't know, whatever, sex max. It is
No
a
more
it
dominatrix dog.
dominates drugs. That's the word. And now it became the fashion. I see that in all over the places, and I'm so happy I don't have that mask anymore. Now I'm a cyber dog or whatever this is, more like a super hand. I don't know, but I like it. It's easier, and I can talk. I can see.
You're
I
like
don't know,
Ant-Man's cousin who grows weed.
hand man. It's kind of like that. Yeah.
I like it,
One
man.
of
I
my
dig it.
one of my friends on Instagram is an Aptus grower, and I said something under his post, and he tagged me. He tagged one of their main guys and said, "Hey, what's up? Hook this guy up." I said, "Yeah, you think you send me some samples, dude?" They sent me a
crazy ass box of stuff. And I'll admit, I haven't used a lot of it because I'm a little bit scared. But I will say one product that I really did like was the facilitator.
It's
Facilitator
the
from
regulator.
Aptus is
Oh yeah.
legit.
They have yeah. The yeah. That's the monosilica, and it's straight away available for the plants.
It's
And
beautiful.
you notice how stronger the plant is, how better nutrition absorbing the plant is getting. Everything it's just you do a side by side and it's notorious. So yes, sir. It's kind of like the Power C, Power Psi, or whatever, or similar, but it's different. It's there. They have a patent on it also. That's something I don't have on playground. It is what it is. Oh, let's see the garden.
Yeah,
Dog
I
Ducker.
look at this. This light's empty. It'll be full next week. There's one right there. I'm getting ready to put four in this light that I've been harvesting. I just got done finishing. And this stuff right here, I just started water only yesterday. So it's got I'm gonna higher that light up a little bit, but it's got like maybe 13 to 15 to 17 days, depending on how it looks, of just water only. Might throw like a little like 3 milliliters of molasses to feed the stuff that's in the soil, but usually just water only all the way to the end. And yeah, it's fun. It's
Looking great,
exciting.
man.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Looking solid. What is that?
These two are these are service CO, and then these two are duct tape.
Okay,
They
nice.
probably day 50, somewhere around there, day 50 from 12-12 flip.
Okay, nice.
Yep.
Still no LEDs in there, brother.
No, no, not yet. But one of the panelists has been told me I should talk to him, and I actually did have a panelist offer me a light, and I turned it down. That's like dude, that's why I admitted about the Aptus. Like I've had a lot of people send me nutrients that I won't use just because
You
I'm
feel
pretty
comfortable, man. It's fair
I,
enough, man.
yeah, I can still
Uh,
grow some pretty good stuff with what I'm doing. So,
Yeah,
but
I know.
I am getting a little antsy with the T5 situation, and I'm thinking about getting a light that I could veg under that I could eventually put in a tent just in case I was to move somewhere because my old lady just graduated from college, and so I don't know what's going to happen with that.
I
Just got her
know.
bachelor's degree. Yeah, that's what's up, bro.
Congratulations,
Yo,
man.
I'm just gonna say I know a guy who runs this warehouse that I think I have even older model light that we could probably get you a really good deal on that is a veg specific spectrum.
Well, okay, so that is tempting, and I might be interested, but so that's what I'm saying. I wouldn't mind getting one light, like you said. I don't know. You said maybe it was like 500-600 for like a 600 watt or something like that. But
I
I
might
could
get
be
some. I'll look at this older model and I can ask the CEO directly and see what price we can get. We might be able to do better.
okay.
Nice.
Yeah, because I wouldn't mind having the light, and then if I had the light, I might experiment. I have a spot in my room, and dude, I'm already like so far behind. Like one of my really good patients passed away last year, and like I literally ripped out half my plants, turned off a light. I thought I literally almost just quit, like except for like one light, and but I was like, no, I can still do well. But I'm treading water now this whole time since then, nonstop. So I'm kind of gearing back up. I'm back to my limits, and I've had several people try to get me to take their card. I don't want to do anything like that, though. I'm having fun being a freelance guy and being able to do it for myself again. I'm kind of growing just for fun, and that's really been kind of rejuvenating me and stuff. And I've also been like not being as lazy, so my stuff is a little bit better than it was. So, you know how it goes. You can get sometimes being a guy that's grown for a long time can be a curse because you just figure you can get yourself out of any jam, and then you get
It's
yourself into a jam that you
basically
can't.
you're
Yeah,
responsible for
yeah.
a lot of people as a caregiver. Like you're
Yes.
essentially a medical providing business that has customers who expect a certain level of quality of product. So now you're sort of on the hook year round to have good quality plant ready for them if and when they need it. And it's intermittent reimbursements, and you've got monthly bills coming down. And sometimes you can do well enough in certain other industries or other ways that you don't have to worry about expenses, and maybe you can donate it to people that are so medically um, in need that
Full in that
they
room right now.
can't
Tell what
afford.
you're hearing.
But the fact is, like, you know, you got to pay your bills, and people got to make sure that they're taking care of the growers, and whether that's at a commercial scale, it's crazy to say, but my wife works in the industry, and there's a lot
What's
of
that
growers
noise?
that aren't getting paid. No, I think you're
Yes.
not on mute, or maybe you're trying to talk.
Oh,
I don't know.
sorry about that.
No, no, maybe you were commenting. I thought maybe you were talking in the background, or I don't know if you're commenting on what I was saying, but yeah, there's definitely big and small grows that are having a hard time getting repaid for the stuff that they've grown, harvested, maybe packaged and sent out, and people have purchased, and they're still waiting on people to pay them back. So it's crazy to think that that's the situation in the commercial market, but even in the home grow market, like if you're, like I was saying, it- even just growing for yourself, it can be stressful. Just one plant, you want to keep it alive, you want to do well. So adding the additional stressor of like, man, somebody else is not only wanting this, but like maybe in certain circumstances really relying on it and needing it medically. So that's a huge sort of a burden to bear. That's why I think it has to be a passion. You have to enjoy it. You have to love it. You have to really be all in. Otherwise, you're not going to make those sacrifices that it takes to get to a 9 out of 10 or higher in quality, which is like unlocking, in my personal opinion, the truest, highest medical potential. If you grow a cannabis plant that's terpene rich, cannabinoid rich, and was fed properly from start to finish, taken care of in the right ways, and maybe you might have intentionally stressed it a little bit here and there just to bring out certain elements, whether it's lighting, temperature, drought stresses, etc., things like that. People like to experiment in certain ways, but whatever ends up in that like elite flower, it's helping so many people, whether it's just you or the people around you that you let it out to. But it's like that's to me one of the hardest things to come by. It's like really ultra, ultra, ultra premium cannabis, like stuff that makes me say, wow. I smell it and I'm like, oh my goodness, who grew this? Like, oh, you grew this? This is fan fucking tastic. Like, high five, buddy. Like, hats off to you. It makes your eyes look like this little blue guy that dog doctor's holding up. That
That's
kind of
Mr.
cannabis.
Baggy. He's from Bagalon, his planet. It's Space Blue. I love this guy. He has a secret stash pocket in his eye,
That's fun.
which is really fun. And he's really stoned, man. Look at his eyes.
He's definitely got some stony eyes. They had these
Oh
things called
yeah.
pillow pets for a while, and one of my roommates got like a dragon, and its eyes were all stoned looking. And I think we made it even like sewn or markered in some little red squiggles on his eyes to make him look even more high. But good times with that kind of stuff.
This is an Italian company that makes weed stuff. They make a bags also, which smell proof, a bunch of stuff. Really nice, actually. I can show you.
I will say, a little biased being Italian, but Italians make some good stuff
Oh
from
man.
cars to fashion.
In
The
terms of
design
fashion,
cars
look
even
at
for the
this.
Germans and stuff. They're incredible. Shout out to all the Italians out there.
This thing comes out. You can use it to
I
make a
love
suit.
this kind of bag. There's a couple companies that
Eh,
make them like that here in the US too.
Beautiful. And inside has a bunch of things. Actually, I have another bag inside.
They're lockable too, I think, like with the
Sir,
zippers if
yes,
you push them
sir.
into the little thing. Yeah, with the little code. I love that shit. My dad
They are smell proof.
thing has that too.
And then they have a bunch of pockets inside for you to put your papers, your grinders, your bunch of stuff. They're really nice, actually.
I just saw one that is
Shout out to them.
refrigerated. Check that shit
Mm,
out. It's a little
no.
zip thing like that, but it cools itself down. It's like a fucking chill bot, a little mini
Sorry.
fridge that cools your shit down. So
That's
that's
cool.
next level. That's what you love is like as technology becomes more accessible, stoners will figure out a way to implement it into making their cannabis better.
Oh,
Like I
yeah.
see a meme under like a lot of espresso videos because they like do all this crazy prep. They hand grind it, then they take a little needle tool to distribute it, then they take a little spinner tool to distribute it, then they tamp it down, and then they do all this other shit and they like get a little shot of espresso.
Here,
And people in the
I can
comments will be
show
like,
you my grind.
espresso snobs will, solve nuclear physics to get a 0.001% better shot of espresso. And that's kind of how I feel about cannabis. Is this a fancy cannabis grinder? That looks pretty cool. Is it more
Yes,
of like a
sir.
mill?
It's a mix of techniques in the grinder. This is one of the things I like. So you can change the size of the holes according to the type of
Oh, I
grind
like
you
that.
need. So this is the size I like. It's a medium one. It works with pressure. So it's pressing
Oh,
it
from the
against
top,
air,
you can give it like a tamp, and it looks like a mill mixed with a teeth kind of grinder
and at
combo.
the same time it spins.
Is it electric or are you spinning that with your hand?
No, 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 no. It's electric. That's another
I
thing
love
that I
that
like about it. Yes.
because I
So
have
it's
arthritis, so I've been using this thing called a whacket. It's like little beads like that,
that
and
was
you
the
just
one I used before, but
press it down.
I feel like that smashes the wood. If you go one thing too much, it
It
will
powders it
smash
up.
it. It powders it up. This no, because it's grinding it down to a recipient or
More
to
like a
your
traditional
bowl.
grinder
Exactly.
or a mill, like the
So
raw grinder made a mill grinder. That's very similar to that. Same with the holes for the screens on the bottom. Same with like there's another company that like made cannabis milling grinders or whatever. It's not technically a grinder, they call it a mill. I mean, you could use the one guy that came on Eagle Gardens. He was like a Rasta Bob. Fucking, he had a knife and a cutting board. He was fucking cutting his weed up with a knife and a cutting board. I've seen people use mortar and pestle, dude.
dude,
Fucking, it
you
works.
use what you have. You if you have to roll, if you have to use your nails, you use your nails. You use whatever you
I've broken
have.
up plenty of butter with my hands.
Oh yeah.
That's how our fingers get so sticky oftentimes. My phone, whenever I'm harvesting, I have a little fingerprint sensor on the back. And whenever it's harvest season or the plants are late in flower, that thing is worthless. I have to like alcohol swab, Q-tip it like 3 times a week. Look at his camera at the top. His That's a beautiful camera, by the way. Sony,
Thank
it
you.
looks like. I love a
Yes.
DSLR style camera. They're amazing for cannabis photography. This is like
This this
ultimately what
this
anybody would want for a professional level.
this was my investment. This Black Friday, this last Black Friday, I was saving for
I've
a
been this
year.
close a few
Oh
times
man,
to
dude, I
pulling the trigger on
invested.
them.
Many
It's
would
worth
say
it.
that I'm crazy, but it's worth it, man. I'm getting photos that I was not getting before, and the details I see from my girls and my plants,
I'll
and
have
work
to
is
send you
coming
some
out of this.
info
So
if you don't already have it
also,
on a macro rig. There's
oh,
some really cool stuff that you can do really cheap.
I have a Sony Micro OGS lens, and this camera makes photo overacting, photo stacking on camera,
That's
meaning
awesome.
I can bring without touching. I bring the later one and I can just number the distance and everything. So I've been playing around. The biggest one I did was about 300 photos of stack. And man, it's fun. It's really
You
fun.
can get some
How
insane
long to do
clarity.
the process of that? Oh my gosh, 300 photos.
It's yeah, you're there looking and it's better you're not touching anything because she's taking just like a little on the front, and then you grab all of those files, you move it to the computer. I use Affinity Photo for that. You compose all photos. You go for the focus
I was gonna say
point
there's got to be
of
some
each.
AI tool at this point that's finding like the
Oh yeah,
most
yeah, 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 yeah.
in
But it
focus photo of each
works
one.
in 90% of it. Yeah, it brings it, and
That's
then
pretty
you
cool, man.
go
Then you can go in hand touch.
exactly one by one. You find oh, there's a ghost here. He makes two photos there. You find that place, that photo, and you branch past paintbrush or whatever it is on top of it
You
and
have
take
like
the
layers, layer one, stack one, whatever. You
yeah,
can just
it's
go through and take
300
out stack
layers.
68.
It's 300 layers, and you need to find the layer that is ghosting, but it's fun and it gives you beautiful images, man. I'm really happy with this,
I'm
and
happy for
again,
you, brother.
thank you.
I'll have to go check out your page because I haven't looked recently, to be honest. And I think you've probably already posted some amazing photos from that camera, I'm sure.
Oh, possible. Thank you, sir. Feel free to come. You're more than welcome anytime.
Always good, man. It's we're coming up to like the last 5 minutes and we've got four of us here. So we're getting to that point where we're closing it down. It's always been good having you on over these 5+ years. Crazy.
I
Now
remember
through
my
two different
first
sponsorships
stopping.
and you're loyal to your homie at your place, which is something I'm a big advocate of. Whether it's like I had a barber who moved from one shop to another. I went to that shop and he started cutting his hair out of his house. cutting people's hair out of his house. So I drove 40 minutes to his fucking house, and then I started teaching him how to grow up there. And ultimately
Respect.
now he's just a beekeeper who grows weed. So shout out to that motherfucking
That's
dude, my
cool.
homie
Shout
Ed.
out, man.
And he's way happier, and he's spending way more time with his kids, which is all that matters, you know.
All
So
beekeepers are happier somehow. All the beekeepers I know are such a relaxed person, super chill. They have no issues with anything. It's all good. I
that's
think
exactly
it's the
this guy.
buzzing, the rhythm of the bees, everything there
And
calms
he
your
surfs on
heartbeat.
top of it. So he's like the chillest fucking dude
Oh
you'll ever meet.
man, that's
So
for sure. Wheat, surf, and bees, that's an amazing combination, actually, to be true. And he
it's funny.
probably snowboards in the winter and maybe sky jumps some here. And yeah, that's a
Southern
good life.
California stereotype
Yeah.
101, you know.
Oh,
But
yeah.
there are certainly many of those types out here, and he's definitely one of the cool ones. Definitely had a lot of great times. I love teaching people to grow, like online, where you know it's through DM or through the show, but like in person, that is like the ultimate reward. You show up every couple of weeks or whatever, and you go and see, or maybe they'll call you up and you could FaceTime or just pop in and help them out. And he actually
It's
taught me
cool.
some things. He taught me something that I used today. Like I was individually going through and like de-leafing parts of the branch. He just took his fingers because he had a like, you know, long enough fingernail from like a part of the thing. He's like, I need to remove this one, and this one. And he just took it and ran it down the stalk and popped every single one off in like half a second with a nice firm grip on the nail around
One
the
time.
smaller branch. And I was like, damn, dude, that was way more efficient than what the fuck I was doing. You know, I was fairly efficient with my little pop, 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 you know, kind of just like almost like a speed bag jabbing each little. I've seen a video of this dude who was like, I think he was topping tea plants or something, but he's out in the field and you see him, he's just like rapid fire, just like taking the little tops off of every plant and like throwing them up and it like lands in a basket behind him. And it's just when you get into the flow, especially like I was saying earlier, it kind of has to be a passion, a love. And when you really, today, I just pulled a plant out. It was actually my Vortex female. I ended up chopping down the male because I decided I'm not going to breed with it. Sprayed down the room, wiped up some pollen, and took the female. And there was a couple leaves on the inside that I just didn't have enough airflow and I hadn't pruned enough. So they were kind of getting a little crunchy. So I went through and popped a bunch of stuff off. And I was using that technique at certain points where I'm like, oh, well, these three are dead. So I just slid my hand down the branch where the rest of the plant was healthy enough where I could actually just take my hand and wrap it around the thing and gently slide up. And any of the kind of crunchy leaf would get caught and just pop right off. And my cat's funny enough, the one is more of an indica boy. He rolled around in this vortex, even the leaf, and it was like he was on catnip, dude. He got like he was too high. He went and hung out by the front door. He's like, I need you to open up the screen. I need some fresh air, man. I'm fucking stoned over here. This vortex is too much for me. I'm not used to it. So he was tripping out for a little bit. He got a little fresh air and he finally relaxed. But with that being said, it's 5:59 here on the west coast of California with this whole time change. I'm glad the dog doctor came in the house. I'm going to pass it first to our special guest, dog doctor. Thanks for coming on, showing up for your garden, and giving us the update. Great to have you again.
Oh man, thank you guys for having me. It's been a while, so sorry for being away so long. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Spartan. Thank you, Tao. Thank you, Noah. Thank you, Shad. Thank everybody for having me here, for receiving me. I want to thank my sponsors, the actual ones now, which is Amnesia, Playground, Fog, which is the light feature of Grow, Lumiflora, which was the under canopy light you guys saw also in there, doing an amazing job. Mr. Baggy, which is the blue bean. I love him. He's with me all the time, so I want to thank him and the Groove Bags. I'm Dog Doctor. You guys can find me on Discord, on Grow Diaries, on Instagram, anywhere as Dog Doctor. Please hit me up. It's always a pleasure. Thank you once again for having me, Jack Serious, and you have you guys. Yours love.
The pleasure is ours. And before you leave, I want one thing from you. Whatever your native tongue is, and you don't even have to say it, but maybe you could disclose it afterwards. I want you to say, keep growing, growers love, and maybe cheers. Hope you smoke something tasty.
In my native language, I
Yeah,
cannot do that. I'm so sorry.
you can't. Okay, so that might give you away your anonymity. Do you
Exactly.
speak more another language that's not your native language that you could give us a keep growing and growers love in that wouldn't give you away? Because I think you speak more than one, right?
So yes, sir. I can. Yeah.
All right, let's hear it. I just
Uh,
want to, for our international folk out there, for all those people that understand the meters without Jack's translation,
so you want me to say growers love,
keep growing.
keep growing. Joder, a ver. Un abrazo a toda la peña que hable castellano, amor de agricultor. Hasta pronto todo.
Perfecto. Thank you very much. I've been working on both Spanish, Italian, and a little bit of sign language. It's fun to brush up on some languages and hear other international languages. In California, believe it or not, you hear lots of different languages being spoken from all around the world. So it's fun. You speak very, very good English, way better than I speak any other language. But there was a couple times where I was like, I remember he speaks another language, so I want to get a grower's love out of him in a different language, but it would give away your anonymity. So sorry for putting you on the spot there with that one. But I'm glad that you had another one in the pocket there that you could do more safely.
On
So
peut faire
thank you
un
so much, Dog
petit peu de
Doctor.
français si tu peux aussi. Un petit peu de français si tu veux.
Great having you, buddy. And next up, I'm going to pass it to Spartan Grown.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, everyone on the panel, as usual. Thank you, Dog Doctor, for coming back up on the panel, return guest, man. I remember you coming up on the GML show. Long time, man, for a long, long time. So it's super cool to see you evolve, man. Everyone in chat, thank you for coming out. Much love and keep growing.
I think there may have been a blurple in your garden when you first started showing up. I could be wrong about that, but if I remember, it might have been long enough ago that there might have been a blurple, or maybe it was just more of a red-blue spectrum in Dog Doctor's side. But um, did you ever
I
run
remember
blurples?
I remember I did a topping online on the first one of the first episodes that I said, "Oh, I'm gonna top this plant," and you guys said, "Okay, let's top it." And I just grabbed the scissor and you guys, what? Just like that? I remember like it was yesterday. It was so fun.
It was, yeah, people weren't ready for it to be so instant. They
At the light that time was the Lumatex, and I had a Viber Spectra. The in the little tent was a Viber Spectra.
Okay,
I don't
okay.
know the spectrum on them.
It's all good, man. Good stuff. But last and certainly not least of our panelists this evening is Noah, the grower.
Yeah, I had a great time. Uh, Showed off some of my plans. So I'm in the process of filling up that empty net right now. And I'm Noah the Grower. Thanks for everybody for showing up. And I'll see everybody next week.
Always a pleasure having all you guys, and thank you to everybody who showed up live here on the YouTube. I know we were an hour earlier for some of you guys out there, Arizona, Hawaii, and maybe some of the European folk who don't observe the daylight savings and the spring forward and all that nonsense or whatever. But we did it today, and we still showed up and made it. So I'm really happy that we were, even though we were 1 minute late, we gave you an extra 2 or 3 minutes at the end. So I'm at Jack Greenstock. Y'all know where to find me. It's been a pleasure hanging with everybody, and I'll just say keep on growing. And like my uh, the homie who hooked me up with some of his tester seeds and one of my favorite breeders of all time. So cool. I'm still growing some of his genetics via Spartan Grown. Would say, have a dank day. Or if it's night, have a dank night. Have a dank one, everybody. Cheers, peace, and love. Catch y'all on the
Girls
next one.
love everyone. Thank you.